One night, in a huge dark castle, someone is looking at several defeated people lying on the ground and at one man, saying that a mere human managed to get this far and that he must admit the man is quite skilled. Then, he releases his terrifying aura and calls the man in front of him the Steel Elector. This is Farza, the rank 7 demon lord. The human just smiles, and as he prepares himself, tells the demon lord to shut up and makes it clear that his era ends that day. This is Han Jaiwu, the Steel Elector. Without hesitation, while leaping, he uses his technique, the Empirical Sword's 12th form. Then he shouts, telling Farza to get ready to receive his powerful attack. However, he becomes confused when he sees a system warning informing him that he has been disconnected from the server. Farza notices that the Steel Elector is distracted and shouts that he is full of flaws. The MC is shocked and starts yelling, begging the system to wait. But the Demon Lord doesn't care and attacks him. The system informs that the mission, the Demon Lord of Würzburg, a raid against Farza, a rank 7 demon, was failed by the warrior Han Jaiwu. Back in the real world, a guy wants to know if the MC is still playing that game. Another replies that he thinks so, but wonders how to wake him up. The guy with a ponytail tells the other to shake the machine, thinking maybe that will wake the MC. The guy turns around, sweating nervously, and says he accidentally pulled the plug, but he doesn't notice Jaiwu glaring at his back with a murderous look. The MC grabs the guy by his clothes, furious, and asks if he was the one who pulled the network cable. The guy starts yelling apologies, trying to explain he didn't know. Jaiwu throws the man to the ground and shouts that he was practically at the end and had already succeeded. This is Han Jaiwu. He may seem like a game addict, but that's because he was quite popular and solved everything in Hanum. The brain of Hannah, the money goblin. He had a good life but realized how trivial everything was. Everything he was obsessed with. The masterpiece of the super AI, Aquila, an absurdly high-quality VR game, the savior of humanity. This place changed the MC's life because it's a single-player RPG with a massive open world. And for him, who had never even read an illustrated book, this world was magical. Not to mention the beautiful characters of all species whose stories pulled him even deeper into the game. It also transformed him, someone who only cared about money. So the MC took out a loan, all to buy a game capsule worth $1 billion. Everyone called him crazy for doing that. The guy still lying on the floor wonders how Jaiwu can treat him like that, since he was the one who invested money in him to play. With a bizarre smile, the MC says he understands, but asks if he didn't end up covering their money more than once, whether sneaking off to golf without his wife knowing, doing side jobs without the company knowing, or even praising VTubers 10 years ago. Then, he starts laughing like a madman, which makes the guy on the floor tremble with fear, seeing the expression on the MC's face. Another man starts yelling, asking if Jaiwu thinks he can say anything after taking $1 billion just for a game. The MC looks at him sinisterly and asks what he said. The man also starts trembling with fear and begs Jaiwu to forget what he just said. However, another, a little hesitant, asks if Jaiwu really thinks he will pay what he owes just by writing a walkthrough guide. The MC starts remembering everything he went through. The adventures, battles against terrible monsters, the hardest parts, and how he wrote everything on the computer, recording each dungeon guide he explored. When he got a paper, he was surprised by what was left in his account, since there was always some discount. Still, the men he borrowed money from wanted him to work with them again, since the MC was Hanum's fixer. Jaiwu, in turn, answers no, thinking that the reason is because he hasn't seen the end of the game yet. For him, the true ending, the one no one has managed to reach so far, is the least he can do to thank the world for everything he has learned. Then, he starts pushing the men out, saying their shift is over and they should leave. The ponytailed guy starts yelling too, wanting to know about the interest on the money the MC borrowed. As soon as he closes the door, Jaiwu breathes a sigh of relief. Turning around, he watches his reflection on the VR machine and, without thinking twice, connects to the game again. As soon as he arrives at the Cathedral of Bayern, he is stunned to see the system informing him that he has a death sentence, which will be temporarily suspended after 22 hours. He then starts shouting, wanting to know how he's supposed to make money with that penalty, until he hears someone say he seems to be struggling with something. The MC looks to the side to see what it is, and as the figure appears before him, he immediately wants to know who it is. The being introduces herself and says her name is Aquila, the goddess of the game, savior of humanity. Jaewoo can't hold back and starts laughing, wanting to know if she's really the goddess of the game. She makes it clear not to judge a book by its cover. The MC laughs even harder and asks if she really thought he would believe her just because she appeared out of nowhere claiming to be Aquila. So the goddess snaps her fingers and everything around them stops in time. Jaewoo, observing the people frozen, wonders if this could be a time-stop magic. Then he concludes that this is at least an SS rank skill. Aquila emphasizes that it's not a skill, but says she just crashed the server for a little while and wants to know if the MC believes her now. She then says she thought of a new event for the game's 7th anniversary and wants to know if he's curious to find out what it is. Jaewoo, surprised, asks her to tell him. Thus, the goddess announces that a new world has opened, and he must be the first to clear the game in this new world with a new character. He starts to get nervous and thinks he hasn't even finished with his current character yet, so he asks if she's crazy. However, she explains that the reward will be 25 billion won and implies that he's afraid. As soon as he hears the amount he could receive for clearing the game, the MC's eyes blaze with fire. Then, Aquila asks if he wouldn't like to see the true ending of the game, as it might exist. She conjures something in her hand and says, "These are clues to reach this true ending." Jaewoo is surprised, and just as he reaches out to take it, she asks him to wait and warns that if he tries now, he'll get a bonus. With that, the system informs him that the goddess has sent 30 million won to his account. Jaewoo can't believe it, thinking this is outright absurd. Soon after, the system shows that the MC is ranked first, with a huge gap over the second place. Aquila also emphasizes that he is her VIP now, with his head in the clouds because of the amount he got. Jaewoo thinks that even if he can't clear the game, it no longer matters. At least the interest for the next month is already guaranteed. Then he shouts that he'd be an idiot to say no to such an event, and that he will try at all costs. Aquila is excited to know he accepted, and comments that she already knew he would, as that's expected from a top player. She warns that she will now send him to the other world immediately. Thus, she begins chanting in a strange language. It doesn't take long for the installation process to complete. The world the MC was in starts to digitize, and he is taken to a sinister place, almost like outer space. Aquila points ahead and says the door in front will take him to another world. Jaewoo asks if the door is magical. Then, he turns and asks if the game starts as soon as he crosses it. Aquila answers yes and tells him to go ahead. As he opens the door, a glow emerges from inside. But before entering, the MC makes it clear to the goddess that she must not forget the reward money. With that, he passes through the door, thinking he's on the way to the true ending. However, Aquila chuckles lightly and comments that she forgot to mention one little thing. If his character dies in this event, he will also die in real life. Jaewoo can't believe what he just heard, but it's too late. He was thrown into the new world before he could do anything to go back. Quickly, he falls face first to the ground. Furious, he wonders why he's feeling so much pain, since he knows this should be just a game. Thinking about the goddess, he also questions if she was serious about really dying if defeated there. Then, he clenches his fists tightly and promises that it won't make any difference, because he will clear this new world no matter what. Still angry with Aquila, he starts shouting and cursing her with terrifying insults. The system announces that the former savior of humanity's steel elector has started in the new world. A brief explanation. Aquila is the AI that created the single-player VR game Savior of Humanity and is considered a goddess within the game universe. She likes cute things, and it's impossible to understand what she's thinking. Savior of Humanity is an adventure game in which the player faces demon lords trying to overthrow the Empire. Loved worldwide for being a perfect VR game, no one has ever managed to reach a happy ending due to the high difficulty. The biggest debate among fans is who will be the first to conquer it. After some time in the new world, the MC walks trembling and thinking he is very thirsty. Furious, he curses the goddess again and says he will never forgive her. Then, he opens his status window and sees his character is dehydrated. He wonders why she had to give him such a terrible character, with only 20 maximum health points. He realizes he's only walked for 12 hours and is already dehydrated. Then he wonders how the hell he will manage the happy ending with that character. Then he hears the sound of dripping water and, desperate, turns around, imagining it's something he needs. Walking toward the source of the sound, he sees a beautiful stream full of water and happily comments that thank God he accidentally found the book How to Survive by Bear Grylls. Quickly, he falls face first into the water, and as soon as he starts drinking it, his health points begin to increase. However, someone is nearby. He notices and starts drooling upon seeing what's in front of him. A girl, bathing. The system immediately informs him that he has bad intentions, and because of that, his HP decreases by 1 point. The MC, very impressed, wonders who the attractive woman in front of him is. And every time he continues to watch her, his eyes start to shine even more. Until the system asks him to please pay for the DLC, Jaewoo goes crazy with anger at the system and wants to know how it is making a VIP pay for a DLC, as he thought that world was the full version. Then, out of nowhere, some girls appear calling him and saying he has to pay to see what comes next. Jaewoo turns around, a bit embarrassed, and asks how much. Then the girls throw him forcefully to the ground beside a tied-up guy and tell him to stay still, calling him a horny kid. The system warns the MC that he is losing HP, so one of the girls approaches and makes it clear that if he stays quiet, she might consider leaving his pants on. The guy next to the MC asks if he's okay. Jaewoo replies that at least they should tell him how much he needs to pay for the DLC. A little confused, the tied-up man asks what the MC means. Jaewoo smiles sheepishly and says it's nothing. The man then says he understands and introduces himself as Rudd, a monster hunter. Jaewoo also introduces himself as Valorstead Valor and asks how Rudd ended up there. The hunter says he was unlucky because he got close to the witch forest while chasing his prey. Jaewoo thinks that's really bad luck. Then, Rudd wants to know how the MC ended up there. He, embarrassed, answers that it's something similar to the hunter's story, but thinks to himself that he was born around there and had no choice. While the hunter comments that he doesn't know exactly what the MC went through, he notes that it's unfortunate, as he seems quite young. Jaewoo tries to grab something sharp next to him and replies that he's fine. Then he makes it clear that this kind of situation is his specialty. Rudd wants to know if the boy has any kind of plan. He thinks that, obviously, he does. Looking at the witches ahead, he remembers that he already wrote down how to defeat them, but also knows it took him 3 whole days and almost turned him into a zombie. The 5 Witches of Havel, that's the title given to them because they appear in Havel Forest. Their names are Gunda, Kaldura, Aldaida, Fugul, and finally, Hajuju. Jaewoo knows that, although they are early bosses players need to face, thousands have already died to them, which makes them well known. However, he also keeps in mind that if observed closely, it's possible to see they are a very disorganized group. The monster hunter notices the weird look on the MC's face and immediately wants to know why. So, Jaewoo asks if Lady Fugul is still alive. She looks back, a bit confused, and the system soon notifies that the MC is provoking her. Then he says he remembers Lady Hajuju saying she was going to kill her. Hajuju asks if she didn't tell him to shut up. However, she's quite surprised to see Fugul with a sinister look, wanting to know if this story is true. The system informs that the MC's provocation worked because Witch Fugul hates Hajuju very much. Jaewoo keeps adding fuel to the fire, saying he's almost sure he heard Hajuju say she would kill Fugul and take all her belongings. Rudd is surprised and wants to know if the MC is really serious. Meanwhile, the witch Fugul goes mad with anger and asks Hajuju if what the boy is saying is true. She takes a deep breath and asks if Fugul really believes a stranger. However, the witch turns with an intense aura and says it's not like Fugul would use all the money she has, so she wants to know why she doesn't give some of it. With that, the system notifies that the MC's provocation also worked on Hajuju, since she covets Fugul's belongings. At that moment, Aldaida comments that this must be why Hajuju was making an acid bomb. Gunda makes it clear she doesn't care about the argument and wants to know when the food will be ready. Kaldura, in turn, asks if they are really fighting, because if so, she wants to join in. So all of them start arguing with each other. Jaewoo starts laughing like a madman, and the system soon notifies that he successfully provoked all the witches. The MC, seeing them fight, thinks someone might even believe they work as a team because of the title. But in the end, these witches don't know how to work together. He also thinks that people fight without knowing this, and that's exactly why they manage to eliminate thousands of players. So, he knows it's easy to make them fight among themselves. Therefore, he comments to Mr. Rudd that they should take advantage of this opportunity to get out of there. The hunter, quite surprised, says the MC is amazing for having thought of that. However, he looks at them for fighting and, with a very suspicious look, comments that he needs to do something first. Saying that, he quickly goes to them and pulls the red carpet they were on. He ends up throwing them all into the huge boiling cauldron. The witches scream that the water is very hot. With that, Jae-woo points forward and tells Mr. Rudd that the exit is that way. While running, the system notifies that each of the witches is suffering 100 damage. Then he thinks they really are quite dumb. But on the other hand, they give a lot of XP despite being dumb. However, something quickly comes toward him, and the MC ends up caught by one of his legs by a snake. The system notifies that Fugel's snake has trapped him and that his movement is limited. She, very angry, makes it clear that the MC is a useless human and that she won't die alone. Jae-woo starts struggling and hitting the snake, but his attacks keep missing. Then, he begins to worry, thinking he forgot that his character is extremely weak, until Rudd shouts that he will help him and quickly draws his sword, slashing the snake that was holding the MC. Then he asks if he's okay. Jae-woo replies yes, and thanks the hunter, but wants to know if Rudd can lend him the bow. The hunter wants to know if the boy is good with bows by any chance. As soon as he takes the bow, the system informs that it is Rudd's weapon, which has an attack power of 15 points and a range of 30 points. While preparing to shoot an arrow, Jae-woo says he's just a little good with bows, but still fires an arrow and ends up hitting a jar, breaking it completely. Haejuju starts trembling with fear and comments that this is not good at all. Fugel wants to know why. Desperate, Haejuju screams that what was inside the jar was her acid bomb, which leaves Fugel very scared and unbelieving. Because of that, everyone gets scared, seeing the acid coming toward them. And as soon as the liquid touches something, a huge, overwhelming explosion happens, visible from very far away. After the dust settles, they watch the chaotic scene left behind until a small stone falls on the MC's head, and the system notifies that he was hit by debris and lost 1 health point. Rudd wants to know if they really finished off the witches, but Jae-woo shouts, asking him not to say that. However, the system announces that an achievement was obtained and informs that those witches were nothing. Then, the system notifies the MC that he defeated all the witches of the forest and also gained a total of 324,000 experience points and 5,000 achievement points. Thus, he tells the hunter that they have now taken them down. He also thinks it was very lucky being at such a low level, but knows that all he has to do now is get a certain item. Rudd comments that he thought they were going to be eliminated, but that the MC ended up saving everyone. Then he emphasizes that even if what he's going to give isn't much, he wants to know if he would accept it as a gift of gratitude. With that, the system announces that the MC received the red dragon fruit. Looking at the fruits, Jae-woo is impressed, wondering if the hunter is really going to give this, because he doesn't remember this from his previous gameplay. While the hunter smiles and says that since he thought the fruits looked valuable, he took them from the witch's nest. The MC quickly snatches them from Rudd's hand and starts devouring them all. Thus, while releasing a large amount of energy throughout his body, the system announces that he is now a dragon bone that possesses great power. While continuing to chew the fruits, Jae-woo thinks that now he can see his stats increasing and that a normal player would never dream of having something like this. So he thinks he got very lucky, since his HP increased by more than 200, his strength by more than 100, dexterity by more than 120, and health by almost 150 points. Rudd notices the boy happy, so he calls him over and wants to know if he's interested in hunting monsters. Jae-woo is quite confused by the hunter's request, but as soon as he finishes swallowing the fruits he was eating, he apologizes to Rudd and points out that he already has things to do. The hunter comments that then he's a busy young man, but soon the MC realizes something and wonders if this isn't an opportunity. While checking his system, he notices he still doesn't have a class, and therefore all the massive experience he gained from defeating the witches has nowhere to go, and if he leaves it like that, it will disappear in a month. So the hunter turns around and says he's leaving then. However, Jae-woo asks him to wait and wants to know if 3 months would be enough. Rud laughs and asks if it couldn't be 3 years instead. After that, they start walking through the forest. Then Rud says that first the MC should enter the forest and hide wherever he wants, and that he will look for him in 30 minutes. Jae-woo is intrigued and wonders if this could be a monster tracking skill from a hunter's skill tree, which is why he thinks Rud has leveled up quickly. But as he runs off, he thinks the hunter has underestimated him, since he has in mind that he explored that forest countless times and remembers everything, even the best things. The MC keeps jumping from tree to tree, thinking they are so dense they confuse anyone's sense of direction, and that poisonous spores from toxic mushrooms are spread throughout the place. He then remembers the time he was there in his previous gameplay, and also knows that fierce beasts live there, even more dangerous than the witches they faced before. However, he thinks most of the things are already engraved in his mind, and besides that, with the red dragon fruit, his physical abilities are almost maxed out. For that reason, he's sure the hunter won't find him that easily, but it doesn't take long before he looks like a fool. The hunter is right in front of him. Rud comments that the MC scored 50 points and asks him to try harder next time, but because of the boy's passion and effort, he'll give him 10 bonus points. Jae-woo, quite surprised, wants to know how the hunter did that. He replies that judging by the boy's face, he thinks he's dying of curiosity. So he says it's been a long time since he had such a fun student to teach. Then he turns around and makes it clear that the MC should give his best. After a while, the system notifies Jae-woo that he completed the mission Hunter's Initiation and that a new mission has been updated, called the Hunter's Trials. After some more time, the system congratulates Jae-woo for acquiring the Monster Hunter class and informs that the skills Herbalism, Intermediate Fencing, Survival, and Musket Shooting have been added. Jae-woo gets excited looking at his skill windows and, with a fiery look, thinks he will work well together with Hunter Rud. With that, 3 months pass and Rud wants to know if the MC has mastered everything. Jae-woo smiles and comments that it seems the hunter still doesn't believe it, so he asks him to hide somewhere. Rud stands up and emphasizes that he admires the boy's spirit and that he will try to hide, but he makes it clear that if the MC doesn't find him within an hour, he will be the one to prepare dinner. A bit embarrassed, Jae-woo replies it's okay and asks his master to go hide quickly. As Rud jumps away, the MC has a strange expression, almost as if he's plotting revenge. After a while, the hunter is climbing a tall mountain and thinks he's happy to have found such a good apprentice late in life, and as he keeps climbing, he considers that he shouldn't make it too hard for him. After all, he knows that if he hides near a cliff, the MC wouldn't find him in an hour even if he tried. However, the hunter barely notices that Jae-woo is already there, and on top of that, with an evil look. Soon, his student grabs his foot, making him look down, not believing he was found. Jae-woo, with a sinister expression, shouts that he found his teacher. After that, the hunter keeps trying to hide from his student, but he always ends up finding him, and while making many attempts, he fails them all. He then wonders if the boy really mastered the skills in just 3 months, since he knows it took him 5 years to learn them. Until, on his last attempt, he goes into a strange cave. Looking around, he thinks the boy probably would never go there to look, since he knows that's the nest of the Hellhound. However, Jae-woo appears, giving a sinister laugh. He says the #1 tip in the game, Savior of Humanity, is that not even earthquakes wake a sleeping Hellhound. Rud gets all goosebumps because he was terribly startled. Then the MC wants to know if he really passed now. Totally embarrassed, Rud replies yes. After both leave the cave, the hunter emphasizes that the boy is really amazing and that he wouldn't have thought he'd mastered all the skills he acquired in just 3 months. Jae-woo emphasizes that it's all thanks to his master, who taught him well. Rud replies no and makes it clear that the MC himself is very talented. However, Jae-woo has in mind that he used a furious combination of 5 strikes in his system and leveled up using the massive experience from hunting the witches. But he tells his master that all of it was possible thanks to him. Rud wonders if he at least taught the boy about the Hellhound, but decides to let that go and emphasizes that he is truly amazing and even remembers all the monster ecology tips he gave him. Jae-woo smiles and thinks that was possible because he is the real author of monster ecology. Then the hunter bursts out laughing, and points out that he has never met anyone like the MC before and thinks he will definitely go far. But he wants to know what the boy will do now, and if, by chance, it will be the task he had mentioned earlier. Jaewoo makes it clear that first he will earn some money, because everything starts with cash. Rud comments that's great, and that he actually has a close friend who works as a mercenary, so he asks if the MC wants to try working as a mercenary. Jaewoo is intrigued and thinks that's a pretty interesting proposal since he believes mercenary work is the best option for initial income. Even more importantly, it's free and very flexible, and he knows that if he's lucky, he might even find the game's guardians. Then he grabs the hunter's hand and shouts that he will be a mercenary. So Rud shows a necklace and asks the MC to take it with him since it's his old mercenary insignia, and he thinks his friend will recognize him immediately with it. Then the hunter wishes the MC luck. As Mr. Rud leaves, Jaewoo thinks this is perfect since he defeated witches and even got a class. Precisely for that reason, he thinks it's a great start for his character in this new world. He gets excited and thinks that, at this rate, even a happy ending might not be out of reach. Then, he gets thoughtful and, looking at the necklace the hunter gave him, remembers the goddess asking if he would want to see the game's ending because it might really exist. So he opens the system and sees that the option to log out of the game is out of the question. Then he thinks he never knows when he will die, and that's the thrill of this death game. Besides, he will enjoy this feeling to the fullest. Then he slaps his own face and walks away, thinking the goddess can wait because he swears he will reach the true ending. With that, the system notifies that he completed the Hunter's Trial hidden mission, and a new mission was updated in which he must join the Mercenary Guild. Meanwhile, Aquila, in her space, is laughing a lot. Watching something on her TV, she comments that it was pretty hilarious to see someone dodging the witches like that. And as she starts crying from laughing so much, she says she's really happy she kept an eye on him. Then someone approaches Aquila. As they walk, they wonder if it really is him because they think he definitely isn't an ordinary guy. Aquila wants to know if the person who just arrived is into her or something like that. This is Valpurga. She calls out to Aquila and makes it clear that she is a goddess, so she wants to know why Aquila would look at a human she must protect in such a way. Aquila laughs and says she thinks it's because he's cute. Valpurga gets serious at Aquila's answer, but Aquila comments that Valpurga is always so serious and thinks she should get used to being more fun. Valpurga makes it clear that was a long time ago, but wants to know if Aquila really paid his debt. Aquila says that was settled ages ago. Valpurga wonders if that poor guy doesn't even know his debt was paid and is still working to pay it off. Aquila keeps laughing and replies yes. Valpurga comments that Aquila is pretty cruel, but Aquila wants to know why and if it isn't fun. Then she asks the other goddess to watch him, and the person they were talking about was precisely the MC. Valpurga continues saying that Aquila is really horrible, but she just thanks her. However, Valpurga wants to know if the human is part of Aquila's plan, or if he's just a toy in her hands. Aquila takes a deep breath and responds that he is more like a promising talent. And with a very suspicious look while watching the MC's movements on the TV, she emphasizes that she will keep an eye on him. Back to the MC, he falls to the ground complaining of pain in his legs, and the system notifies that he is quite exhausted. Jaewoo looks back and wonders why the forest is so tiring. Then he tries to stand up, but his whole body trembles. He thinks that, with this body alone, he could get out in just 12 hours. So, he looks ahead and thinks it's time to go to the Mercenary Guild. As soon as he arrives in the city, he heads to a tavern and, when he passes through the door, a bell rings, announcing someone's arrival. Quickly, the waitresses welcome him to Francois, the best tavern in Frankfurt, and ask how they can help. Jaewoo feels totally embarrassed seeing how beautiful they are, so he comments that he is actually looking for someone. One of them says she understands, but will first show him to his table. Jaewoo looks around and thinks this was expected. Since the tavern is the classic place to get information, it has drinks, lively people, and the amazing smell of good food. He knows that if any place had information about the Mercenary Guild, it would be here. He also keeps in mind that people always talk more when they're happy. Above all, the waitresses are wonderful. Jaewoo asks if they know someone named Rebus Schultz. As soon as he says that name, the atmosphere in the tavern changes completely, and everyone starts looking at him with angry faces. One of the waitresses begins to tremble with fear and tells the MC that the name should not be spoken here. Jaewoo is confused and wants to know why. The other waitress explains that it's because the person he mentioned is too dangerous, and that her boyfriend once got involved with him, ending up coming back like a mummy. Jaewoo imagines the scene and becomes terrified. The waitress also says others in the tavern have suffered because of the person Jaewoo mentioned. Meanwhile, the system notifies that the tavern's happiness has dropped considerably. Two rough-looking guys approach and start talking nonsense. Jaewoo wonders who Mr. Rudd has introduced him to. Then the blonde waitress starts pushing the MC, warning that he must run because Rebs Chultz will arrive any moment, until Jaewoo ends up running into something face first. Furious, he wants to know who did that. The big guy answers that it was him and asks if there's a problem. Then he introduces himself as Rebs Chultz. However, he looks down and sees the necklace of his friend Rudd on the MC's waist. He quickly grabs the item and asks what's going on, and if that isn't the mercenary Rudd's insignia. But then he thinks the MC must be the guy his friend mentioned. He starts laughing and says that's perfect because he's looking for a companion. Jaewoo starts trembling and asks what the big guy just said, but thinking about Rudd, he begins cursing him in his mind. Rebs gives a sinister smile and makes it clear he's just joking. After leaving the tavern, they start walking through the city, and Jaewoo asks if he is a companion to be taken to the war between the Prince Elector and the forces of Pezimut. Rebs replies that exactly, and thinks the MC learns fast. Jaewoo thinks that, even though it seems like he's being smuggled into some country's army, he knows this is actually a great opportunity, since he knows the Prince Elector is a guardian of the game and one of Paltz's electors. Through him, he can get information about other guardians, until a horn sounds and Rebs grabs the MC, telling him the prince is coming. Because of this, the system informs that the MC was ambushed and had his HP reduced by 30 points. The Prince Elector arrives with his troops. Rebs comments that he thinks the prince would fit well with the group in front of him. Meanwhile, the MC thinks it's very different from what he expected, since he used to be on the other side of things. Looking at the prince, he wonders if he really is the current Prince Elector, because he even seems like a villain. Then, he gets scared by something and asks himself if he's seeing correctly and if she is really there. He notices a warrior in armor mounted on her horse and wonders if Lady Valpurgis is present. At that moment, the prince notices something, looks to the side, and asks if Valpurgis has sensed something wrong, as he thinks she seems distracted. She takes a deep breath and replies to His Majesty that she has not. While the prince comments that the battlefield awaits them, they begin marching. Jaewoo just watches them and thinks that Valpurgis was his companion in his previous game sessions, but that he was never able to save her in any of them. And in every scenario, it always ends the same way. Rebs notices the boy's apprehension and quickly asks if something is bothering him. Jaewoo says no, but thinks that this time, even if he has to risk his life, he will find an ending where she survives. After a while, some mercenaries are training, and the training is very rigorous. Jaewoo thinks they are quite intense. Then Rebs approaches, saying it's about to start. The system informs the MC that he has entered the Mercenary Guild's training grounds led by Rebs Chultz. Next, the big guy explains that they are selecting group leaders through fights, and that money is also on the line. Jaewoo watches the outcome of one of the battles and thinks about pride and money, since he knows all he needs is to contact the Prince Elector and figures it's better to keep a low profile for now. However, he is soon startled when Rebs says he will participate too. Jaewoo comments that he's not really in the mood, but the big guy makes it clear that he will participate and that Rudd would never send a lost cause. So Rebs turns and shouts, asking if anyone wants to face the rookie. Immediately, the mercenaries get excited and each one starts yelling, wanting to be first. Jaewoo is stunned, wondering if he can refuse, and thinks he'll have to use a bit of power. He goes to the arena, and his opponent prepares himself. Then the opponent introduces himself as Max and says it's a pleasure to meet the MC. However, he wants to know what's wrong with the rookie's body because he thinks he'll fold him in half with one blow. Jaewoo thinks the mercenary has quite a foul mouth, knowing that his body gets over 1,000 likes on Instagram. Rebs asks if both sides are ready. Once they answer yes, the big guy announces the start of the battle. Max doesn't hesitate and rushes straight at the MC, but in the blink of an eye, a sword is thrown into the air. The mercenaries are in disbelief at what just happened, since Jaewoo managed to defeat Max without much difficulty, and the system informs that he gained 15 points in the fame attribute. While the mercenaries shout, wanting to know how Max was defeated with a single blow, the MC thinks it was to be expected because after eating the red dragon fruits, his strength is at the level of an ogre. However, he is startled to see the mercenaries running toward him, eager to be the next to fight. Jaewoo can't believe it and tells them to come one at a time. His fights proceed, with the MC using intermediate fencing techniques, followed by monster trapping techniques, and finally, the legendary monster headbutt, always gaining 15 more points in his fame attribute. Then a bald man approaches, saying this is all ridiculous, and that everyone was embarrassed by just one mere rookie. Then he shouts at the MC that he will be his next opponent. This is the mercenary Charlotte. Jaewoo begins to tremble upon seeing the size of the mercenary, and wonders if the guy is really human. He opens the system window and thinks he needs to quit the game soon because this is too much. But then, he sees he can't log out of the game, and thanks Aquila for that. Very scared, Jaewoo asks Charlotte to let him rest just a minute. However, the big guy doesn't care, and, as he charges at the boy, replies that he won't let him escape. Jaewoo is stunned, thinking his fate sucks, but then closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, and thinks everything will be fine, and since he's in this situation, he will do it right. Then, he opens his eyes at the last moment. He grabs the mercenary's huge arm and, with the other hand, holds onto the bands of his clothing. Using this, he applies his monster throwing technique, hurling the big guy hard onto the ground. Charlotte is completely stunned and wonders what the hell that monster throw the boy just did was. Meanwhile, the MC breathes a sigh of relief and thinks the mercenary really was quite heavy. The system then informs that he has defeated Charlotte and earned 30 more points in the fame attribute. One of the mercenaries, very surprised, asks Rebes where he found this boy, as he can't believe even Charlotte lost to him. The other mercenaries quickly surround the MC, saying he really is amazing, and even seems like a monster for having defeated Charlotte. While the mercenaries continue shouting that they want to fight the boy, Jaewoo thinks he needs to rest, as he's already fought several times in a row without a break. However, Rebes, with a sinister look, shouts for everyone to get out of his way. Jaewoo can't believe it and wonders if mercenary Rebes is really looking out for him because he's the apprentice of his mercenary friend. But Rebes points to the MC and shouts that he is the chosen one and will be the new group leader for the battle they will fight. Jaewoo is very confused by this sudden choice. Thus, the mercenaries gear up for battle, as does Jaewoo, who trembles all over, unable to believe he got involved in this. The MC's hidden mission to join Rebes Chaltz's mercenary guild is completed and a new mission is updated. Retake Mount Harfheim. After everyone arrives at the battlefield, Rebes shouts for everyone to attack. The soldiers charge at full speed, and the orcs are startled to see the swift assault by the humans. Jaewoo easily defeats some and thinks that, at the moment, they are aligned with the forces of the Prince Elector. Then he remembers mercenary Rebes saying they are in direct conflict against the orc army of the demon king Pezimut, and their mission is simple: steal the enemy commander's military banner. He then explained that the plan was simple. When the forces break through the enemy's formation, they would pass through the opening and collapse the enemy lines. However, he asked everyone to remember well that orcs are proud and not only strong, but also have great coordination. So he calls the MC and says that his job as group leader is to stop them. Back in battle, Jaewoo faces two huge orcs about to attack him, but he manages to dodge the creature's blows, and, after defeating the orcs around him, thinks it's ridiculous that he won the group leader position, since all he had in mind was just to get some military merit and get out of there. At that moment, in one of the orc army's tents, a commander arrives telling his captain bad news. The spearmen are being slaughtered. The captain turns, saying that's ridiculous because he knows the spearmen in his army are the elite. He quickly grabs the commander's binoculars and makes it clear he will see for himself. As he watches the battlefield, he becomes very confused, seeing a bunch of misfits. He starts sweating cold and, furious, orders his troops to form ranks and line up the muskets. The orcs start firing their muskets, and Jaewoo and his troops defend the shots with their shields. But the system soon informs that the shield's durability has been reduced by 10 out of a maximum of 230. While defending, the MC thinks the musket attacks are quite pathetic and wonders if the orcs even know what a K2 is. Then he thinks that without rapid fire, muskets must alternate firing lines. Meanwhile, the orc captain keeps ordering the first row to continue firing and the second row to line up and get ready. Jaewoo thinks now is the moment and shouts for them to advance against the orcs. As they break through the first firing line, the MC orders to eliminate them all. One of the commanders starts getting nervous, and seeing the human soldiers coming at them, thinks this is impossible, since they are all being wiped out by mere weaklings. He believes these vermin can't be mere humans, but knows he can't let them get the flag, as it carries the proud history of his tribe. Jaewoo and his team charge full force, and, without much difficulty, manage to steal the orcs' flag. Everyone starts shouting happily for having succeeded. Jaewoo grabs the flag in his hand, and all the soldiers shout that the group leader captured the enemy's flag. The system notifies that he successfully stole the military flag and earned 30 more points in leadership and 20 more points in conquest. Jaewoo thinks that now he just needs to hold on a little longer to earn military merit. Then a horn sounds on the battlefield, and one of the soldiers calls out to the MC, shouting that there is bad news. He says the allies are retreating, which terrifies Jaewoo because he is alone in front of the enemy lines. The soldier then tells him that orc reinforcements are already ahead. Jaewoo begins to panic and thinks victory was very close, then wonders why the hell the allies are fleeing. The terrified soldier asks what they should do. Should they just leave the flag and run? Jaewoo is stunned by the question and wants to know what the hell he's saying. The soldier starts sweating and says it's because they're completely surrounded. At that moment, the hidden chief and great general, the orc Kallian, approaches, telling the humans that it's over. With a very sinister expression, Kallian says the warriors are brave, but asks them to surrender and retreat immediately. He then says that behind him are his proud elite soldiers, and that if the MC's group returns immediately and leaves the flag with them, he will honor their courage and spare their lives. Jaewoo pulls the orc military flag and makes it clear he would never believe a word the general just said. Then he states that if they take another step, the flag will end up in mercenary Charlotte's underwear drawer. Kallian gets furious and wants to know how the boy dares to put his sacred military flag in such an obscene place. Jaewoo continues provoking the general, asking if they think there are rules in war, because if it means victory, he'll do whatever he wants with their flag. One of the orcs calls his captain, who quickly turns around, furious, wanting to know what it is. Upon hearing what his soldier said, he shouts, ordering everyone to prepare, which surprises the MCA. He can't believe his provocation didn't work. Then Kallian shouts, ordering the orcs with muskets to open fire. The MC's group tries at all costs to defend against the shots. Soon, the system informs the MC that his intimidation failed. While defending the attacks, he thinks that in his previous game sessions, the orcs never gave up their flag so easily. Seeing his group being brutally shot, he wonders if the orcs really brought the great general and knows there's no way he can tank this monster with his current fame and rank. Finding himself with no way out, he wonders what the hell he can do in such a situation. He starts remembering his previous game sessions, searching for a true ending. He also thinks of Aquila, who told him that if he dies here, he'll die in real life. Then he gets even more worried since he has no idea what to do, until one of the mercenaries runs to him, shouting and saying they need orders or they will be annihilated. Jaewoo starts smiling and then bursts into laughter like a madman. The mercenaries, seeing this, wonder if their leader has gone crazy. But the MC grabs Charlotte's trumpet. He makes it clear that no other reinforcements are coming, but Jaewoo just tells him to shut up and watch. Then he takes a deep breath and blows the trumpet, which can be heard throughout the battlefield. Max warns the group leader that the direction in which he blew the trumpet is opposite from where the allies went. Jaewoo confirms he knows and tells him to shut up and keep blocking the musket shots. The MC smiles and thinks he's now even with Aquila, because if she has honor, she wouldn't abandon him there. Then he shouts that, after all, he's still a VIP. At that moment, Kallian yells, ordering the spearmen to advance. Quickly, one of them jumps at the MC's group. With blood in his eyes, the orc says the MC is the arch-enemy of his people. Jaewoo just stands still watching the attack coming toward him until, out of nowhere, the big orc is hit by something. At that moment, a horse with a soldier appears, jumping over them. It's Valpurgis. As they land, she shouts for everyone not to give up. Then she orders everyone to raise their swords and fight. Thus, General Callion soon shouts, ordering his troops not to interfere, as this fight is between him and her. He makes it clear that this is a noble duel. Valpurgis comments that the general really seems like a man. She says this, and immediately launches an attack on the general, who manages to dodge the charge at the last second. An intense battle begins between them. Jae-woo is very impressed and thinks it's incredible, as it's a well-matched fight, and Valpurgis is just at the start of her story, but is already so strong. The rider strikes again but is blocked. However, Callion is startled by something. He sees Valpurgis coming at him full force with a kick. Unable to defend himself, he takes the blow right in the face. The general retreats, furious. Looking at the rider, he comments that this was expected, as not only her swordplay, but also her hand-to-hand combat is on another level. Thus, he asks if Valpurgis was part of the convent, knowing it is an impressive martial organization. She points her sword and makes it clear she only loves God with a devoted heart. Callion, laughing, places his huge sword on his shoulders and prepares again. Valpurgis also gets ready and makes it clear it's getting late and she needs to finish this quickly. She leaps forward and attacks the general again, who manages to block. Then, he takes advantage of an opening and delivers a powerful sword strike, breaking everything around. However, Valpurgis had already jumped on him and, without much difficulty, manages to strike the orc general, who quickly falls to his knees. With his remaining strength, he comments that it was an honorable fight. The orc army looks at their fallen leader while the human army watches the warrior. Then, the orcs help their general and shout that he's weak and order everyone to retreat immediately. Jae-woo is surprised because the general, who seemed so strong, was taken down with a single blow. Watching Valpurgis in front of him, he thinks this was expected from the rider. With that, all the orcs begin to retreat quickly. The rider approaches the MC and asks if he is the leader of the mercenaries. Then she extends her hand and makes it clear she sensed his courage from afar. As they shake hands, Jae-woo says it's a pleasure to meet her and introduces himself. She does the same. The system informs that the rider Valpurgis expresses respect for him. Jae-woo says that if the rider hadn't arrived, he thinks everyone would be dead. Then he realizes he's not the current Steel Elector and thinks he should have been more cautious. Then he hears Valpurgis asking why he's looking down. At that moment, the mercenaries approach him, calling him squad leader and asking him to take the orc military flag. The system soon notifies that the MC's credibility within the mercenary guild has increased. Jae-woo wonders if he really should be thanked. He begins to recall all the moments he commanded the mercenaries, making them resist at all costs. Thus, he starts trembling and comments that now he understands. Then he shouts in celebration, saying this is his battle standard. The mercenaries don't understand why their leader is yelling like a madman, and soon ask him to stop because they think he hit his head. After returning to the city and a few days passing, at the Francois Tavern, someone bursts through the door calling for her brother. It's a little girl. Charlotte looks at her, and the girl quickly runs to the mercenary and asks if he went to war again, and if he is hurt anywhere. He replies that he's fine. Jae-woo asks Reebs who the little girl is, and if she might be Charlotte's daughter. The mercenary replies that Charlotte is only 15 years old and that the girl is his younger sister. Then she goes to the MC and makes it clear that it's because of him that her brother ended up like that, and that he must pay for the treatment. Charlotte tries to explain to his sister that it was thanks to the group leader that they returned alive. She turns around, frightened, wanting to know how that is possible. Thus, all the mercenaries around start shouting that that's exactly what happened, because if it weren't for the leader, they would have been orc food. Jae-woo feels embarrassed and just asks them to eat quietly, but thinks the feeling is quite strange. Then, Valpurgis arrives at the tavern calling for Jae-woo. He feels a little shy and wants to know what she's doing there. After leaving the tavern, the two go to the Harfheim Advanced Base. She says that none other than His Highness, the Elector, is looking for him, and that it seems they will grant him military merit. Valpurgis notices the MC's expression and asks if he's not happy because it's the greatest military achievement as a mercenary. Jae-woo thinks that somehow she is different from the Valpurgis he knew and even seems a little brighter. The MC comments that she seems happier than him. However, she asks him to call her Valpurgis. He agrees and says he will call her Madame Valpurgis. Then she points ahead and asks the MC to look at the soldiers who lived thanks to his merit, and that if it weren't for his courage, they would all have died. She also says that those who are citizens of the Empire were all saved thanks to him. Then she asks if he needs another reason to be happy. Jaewoo begins to remember his last gameplay and concludes that Valpurgis hasn't changed at all, but he knows the only thing that changed is their relationship, as now he's just a mere mercenary. After walking through the base, they arrive at a tent. Valpurgis informs His Highness that she has brought the MC. He immediately thanks her for the effort. Then he says it's a pleasure to meet the MC and introduces himself as the Steel Elector. With an intense look, he says his name is Philip. Jaewoo bows and says it's an honor to meet His Highness, but thinks it's as expected of a guardian since his aura is no joke. Philip laughs and asks if the MC is the one everyone calls the Reaper of the Field. Then he says that his courage was truly surprising, and that, besides that, he is as brave as a lion. Jaewoo emphasizes that the Steel Elector is flattering him too much. Philip laughs and replies that he isn't, and makes it clear that those who achieve military merit must be praised for it. He says he will give 100 florins to his comrades and 300 florins to him. The system then informs that the Steel Elector Philip rewarded the MC with 300 florins, and that the MC's current balance is 350 florins. Jaewoo says he will reciprocate His Majesty's generosity. Philip then asks if there is anything else the MC needs. He replies he has a request, and Philip tells him to speak. Jaewoo says he would like to meet his comrades and rest in Wittenbayer. The Elector replies that it's relatively far from the front of the base, but will grant his request. Then he asks him to take a supply cart and use it as he needs. Jaewoo greatly thanks His Majesty, but Philip asks if there's anything else the MC wants. Jaewoo thinks that normally it would be proper to leave soon, but he looks to the side, seeing Valpurgis watching him. He gives a slight smile and says there is something he would also like to say. With a piercing look, Philip wants to know immediately what it is about. Thus, Jaewoo wants to know what the Steel Elector thinks about this war. Jaewoo then, after observing the atmosphere following his question, thinks that it was as expected since everyone was disturbed. But he also knows that there is no way to avoid it, as he is still a humble mercenary. Philip becomes serious and wants to know what the MC thinks. He replies that, with his limited perspective, he still does not see the full picture, but there is one thing that worries him. At that moment, one of the Steel Elector's guards starts laughing uncontrollably and wants to know what kind of nonsense the MC is worried about, since he should not think he is qualified to give advice to the Elector just because he earned military merit. Another advisor agrees with his friend and emphasizes that he thinks the MC must have picked up some scrap of information somewhere. Then, Valpurgis calls upon your grace and comments on the saying that even when crossing a stone bridge, it is necessary to strike it first, and wants to know why your grace does not listen to the boy first. A conceited old man becomes nervous and wants to know how a humble countess dares to speak, since the man in front of her is simply the Elector. Then Philip tells his uncle to be more careful with his words, as Valpurgis is the niece of the Elector of Bavaria, and therefore he needs to show more respect. Jaewoo is impressed by her and thinks that this was expected of her, since not even the Steel Elector can ignore her. Thus, Philip asks the MC to tell him how he sees the war. Jaewoo takes a deep breath and shouts that there is an ambush approaching, which leaves the Elector's uncle and the Elector himself very surprised by this information. Philip immediately wants to know if the boy has any basis for such a claim. Jaewoo replies that he does, and emphasizes that the main strategies of the Demon King Petsamut have always involved ambushes and betrayals. He then explains that considering the war with the Kingdom of Toa 10 years ago, and the battle with Margrave Anhalt 6 years ago, they could deduce that in both battles, Petsamut's ambush tactics played a decisive role. That said, Jaewoo makes it clear that they should not ignore his other strategy, namely betrayals. After hearing this, the Steel Elector's uncle is somewhat surprised. Then Philip wants to know if the boy is saying that there is a traitor among them at this moment. Jaewoo replies that he is merely suggesting it as a possibility, as he is sure it never hurts to be cautious. The Steel Elector smiles and soon releases his powerful aura, commenting that the MC is being quite bold. While Valpurgis and Jaewoo feel the crushing pressure coming from the Steel Elector, he still asks the MC to listen carefully and says that the only reason his head is still attached to his body is because he is allowing it, and he wants to know if he understands and knows his proper place. Valpurgis tries to argue, but Jaewoo interrupts her and replies to the Steel Elector that he understands. The knight just observes him. Then the MC stands up and asks forgiveness for overstepping, then turns and starts to leave. As he walks through the forward base, he thinks that the Steel Elector is quite suspicious, since in his previous attempts, the Steel Elector would have been more prudent, but he knows that this time he seems excessively arrogant. He then concludes that something is definitely different this time. Next, he thinks first about the red dragon fruits, which usually appear later, and then Valpurgis, who he knows should not have appeared yet. With that, he realizes that everything is different from his countless previous playthroughs. Then, just as he is about to consider something, someone calls him. He turns around, confused, and sees that it is Valpurgis, who as soon as she reaches the MC, comments that she finally caught up with him. Jaewoo wants to know what she wants. She comments that he certainly moves very fast. The MC asks if by any chance she ran there because she was worried about him. She replies that she did, and he thinks that this is quite adorable. Thus, Valpurgis asks him to allow her to apologize on behalf of the Steel Elector for his words and actions, and that if there is anything else the MC wants, she will make it happen. While she asks Jaewoo to say what he wants, he keeps observing the knight's legs and, all embarrassed, wonders if he can really ask for anything. Jaewoo starts fantasizing in his head about the knight dressed in some peculiar clothes and asks if she is not being a little overconfident, as he might ask for something extraordinary. Valpurgis makes it clear that he should not underestimate her, as she comes from one of the richest noble families in the empire. Jaewoo becomes even more excited and comments that money is always welcome and that it is also good to know that she must have many other clothes. Then, after deciding what he will want, he gives a slight smile and says that he would like a quill and a pistol, which leaves the knight quite confused by the request. She then wants to know if that is really what he wants, as it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He replies that it is fine and that that will be it. That said, Jaewoo starts putting on a show and, while crying, says that his dream is to be a knight and that he intends to use this opportunity to learn to ride, and that the pistol is kind of his dream. Still not understanding what the hell is going on, she wants to know why he is crying. Jaewoo gets embarrassed and makes it clear that these are a man's tears. Valpurgis comments that she has never seen anyone as selfless as him before, but Jaewoo thinks that he has already given up on many things in his past. With that, Valpurgis says it is fine, but emphasizes that this is not the right place for the kind of conversation they are having. She then takes the MC by the hand and asks him to follow her. As they run through the base, Jaewoo keeps observing Lady Valpurgis and trying to understand what she wants, always quite impressed by her beauty. Sometime later, in the battle to retake the Harfheim column, the Demon King Pezamut's army faces the Steel Elector Philip's army. Philip shouts to the Demon King that today will be the day he will finally eliminate him once and for all. Pezamut wants to know if any of his soldiers can make the Steel Elector shut up, as he can smell his breath from the other side of the field. Then one of the demons approaches Pezamut and informs him that the preparations for the war are complete. He then wants to know if the Demon King really intends to use that woman, Hexax. Pezamut wants to know why he is so serious and why he is bringing up this subject again. The demon stresses that she is very cruel, because if they capture the Elector, he will be a valuable hostage. But if they hand him over to her, who is a perverted lunatic, he fears the worst. Pezamut replies that he knows that very well and makes it clear that he will take care of her and that the demon should trust him more. That said, he sees his ring beeping and comments, speaking of the devil. Hexax tells Pezamut, through a communication device, that she is already on site and, while walking on top of some demons, says that she is ready to go. Pezamut says he understands and thanks her for the good work, but asks everyone to stay alert, emphasizing that she should take it easy this time. Hexax laughs and wants to know when she has ever gone too far. Pezamut shouts that she always goes too far. Still on top of some demons, she replies that she always takes it easy and, with a suspicious look, stresses that she never goes too far. As soon as the communication is cut, both Pezamut and his aide think about the worst-case scenario that could happen. Meanwhile, The MC rides at full speed on his horse and is quite impressed, thinking that the horse has incredible speed and wondering if, by any chance, its name was Philly, and that he would never have thought it was just a spare mountain horse, being definitely suitable for the lady of House Bayern. He then thinks that Valpurgis even gave such an expensive potion, which completely heals and restores any wound, and whose market price is 1,000 florins per bottle. Jae-woo thinks that this amount is the price of an entire building. Then, out of nowhere, a huge explosion happens right behind him. Jae-woo turns around startled and realizes that the battle has already begun, and that, therefore, he must hurry as well, since he knows that not even someone like the Steel Elector can handle this war, and that he thinks he will probably attack like a fool, being completely unprepared. He then reflects that there is a good chance that the one he least expects will betray him without much effort. And while Jae-woo thinks about such a possibility, it ends up becoming true, and in the midst of the chaos on the battlefield, Philip wants to know why his uncle would commit such a betrayal, and if, by any chance, he still calls himself a Knight of the Empire. His uncle makes it clear that his nephew does not understand the situation, and that, therefore, he should listen carefully. Thus, he says that what Philip did was conspire to rebel against the Emperor, and that, as soon as he realized this, he has been cooperating with Pezimut to arrest him for treason as the Steel Elector. Then the Elector's uncle approaches his nephew and makes a hand gesture, implying that the Steel Elector will lose his head. Philip is stunned and comments that this is all absurd, emphasizing that no one would believe such a ridiculous lie. At that moment, Pezimut steps on the Steel Elector's head and wants to know if he is going through puberty or something, as he should just accept the reality before his eyes. That said, Pezimut makes it clear to the Steel Elector that he is a delusional lunatic. Thus, he shouts, ordering his henchmen to tie up the Steel Elector immediately. As they approach, Philip begins to despair and shout for the demons to stay away from him, and as soon as he starts crying and trembling all over, he makes it clear that he is a noble elector. Then, while Pezimut tells the Steel Elector to shut up because it is very annoying to hear him, Valpurgis appears above them and immediately lands a powerful kick in the middle of the Demon King's face. Pezimut is furious. Valpurgis quickly orders one of the soldiers to grab your grace and get out of there. While Valpurgis and the other soldiers leave at full speed carrying the Steel Elector, his uncle shouts to Pezimut that his nephew will escape, but the Demon King becomes furious and tells the old man to shut up. Thus, he immediately contacts Hexex through his ring and tells her the direction Philip escaped. While she is on top of a tree and sitting on one of the demons, she wants to know if it is time to act. Pezimut becomes furious and shouts, wanting to know if she is still not ready. She replies that she was just playing a little. At that moment, a bloodthirsty creature approaches her, and Pezimut continues shouting, telling her to start working immediately. She then quickly turns, and looking at the terrible creatures in front of her, comments that she thinks they must be starving, but says that soon they will be chewing on prey like crazy. Meanwhile, the MC rides at full speed on his horse, fleeing from some creatures. And as soon as some of them appear in front of him, he eliminates them with his weapon that he got from Valpurgis. He then thinks that surely that person would use zombie dogs, as he knows she wears down the opponent's strength with these strange creatures and then devours them slowly. Then he becomes frightened when he sees a zombie dog coming at full speed from behind him, but quickly turns and strikes it, and while the creature is being thrown away, he takes the chance and shoots it with his pistol, killing it. He then thinks that this is a dirty tactic and that he knows very well the style of Hexex. Jae-woo rides at full speed again on his horse and thinks that apparently there are not many there, which means that the rest are probably after Philip. He knows he does not care about him, but the only thing that matters to him is Valpurgis. After thinking this, he shouts for his horse to go faster, as he needs to hurry. Meanwhile, the Steel Elector and his group are at full speed trying to escape the zombie dogs, until some cross in front of the Elector, and he becomes worried, thinking that, because of Pezimut, his mana control is shut down. Then he pulls his horse to stop, but a zombie dog leaps at him. Philip becomes frightened, knowing that he will not have time to defend himself, until Valpurgis manages to get ahead and kill the creature that was heading toward the Steel Elector. She then moves quickly and manages to kill another creature that was coming from behind him. Valpurgis immediately wants to know if Your Highness is all right. A little desperate, He replies that he is, and thanks her. The knight says that the area there is unexplored territory, and that, therefore, humans rarely go there, and that the Steel Elector must be extremely cautious. Then Philip becomes frightened when he hears a shout calling him, and turns to see what it is. One of his soldiers is being severely attacked by Hexix's creatures, and shouts for him to help, but there is barely time to do anything before the soldier is brutally killed. Valpurgis shouts for everyone to hold on, but the Steel Elector also shouts, calling the knight, and trembling all over, says that he thinks it is better to leave everyone behind and get out as quickly as possible. She wants to know what he means. Philip says that it is different, and that his life and the soldiers' lives have very different importance. Valpurgis is shocked to hear this, and thinks about the duty of a noble and someone who governs. Then she becomes furious, and thinks that if only she had listened to what Jaewu said back then, she thinks she could have handled the situation she is in, and that, therefore, she knows it is their fault for ignoring what the MC had said. Then, out of nowhere, something grabs the knight's neck, and Hexix appears, pulling her whip and strangling Valpurgis. The knight cries out for your majesty, but becomes very frightened when the Steel Elector just looks at her with a face that says he is going to abandon her. Thus, while she is thrown to the ground, Philip runs away. Valpurgis continues being dragged across the ground, so she tries to hold on as best she can, and still thinks they will be doomed with someone like the Steel Elector. Hexix pulls her whip and says no, making it clear to Valpurgis that she must be that strong to be an Elector. That said, with a bizarre look, she wants to know if her sister does not agree. Valpurgis immediately becomes nervous and shouts for Hexix to take back what she just said. She then says that the title of Prince Elector is a critical position that holds the power to choose the Emperor of the Empire, and that each one of them is practically a sovereign in their own Prince Electorate, and it is not something to be taken lightly. Hexix does not pay much attention to Valpurgis, and tells her subordinates to continue tracking Philip. Then she turns and comments that, now that she has stopped to think, she knows that Valpurgis also has Prince Elector blood. That said, she gets a serious look and makes it clear that she has found this out, which leaves the knight very surprised. Then she rushes at Hexix at full speed, shouting that she is a brat, but Hexix easily dodges her sister's punch, leaving her very startled. Then Hexix starts whipping Valpurgis, who screams as she is struck. Hexix becomes excited by her sister's beautiful screams, and makes it clear that seeing this makes her want to torment her even more. The knight tries to resist the attacks, but after several blows, she ends up falling to her knees and, seeing her reflection in a puddle of water, thinks about the MC and that, if it were him, she is sure he would find a way to survive this. But for her, she knows this is the end. Hexix shouts that it is not over yet, until she is surprised by a noise and stops attacking her sister. Then she turns and wonders if it was the sound of a gunshot, and ends up seeing one of her creatures on the ground completely shot. And while she wonders what happened, Jaewu appears behind her ready to launch an attack, and as soon as he lands a punch in the middle of her face, he sends her flying far away, and when she lands, she is dragged along the ground. Valpurgis looks at the MC and immediately starts crying when she sees him. Jaewu waves his hand back and forth, thinking that the punch he just threw hurt a little. The knight is very happy to be sure that it is the MC who is there, and thinks that he is definitely a hero, but as soon as she finishes thinking that, she faints on the ground. Jaewu immediately picks her up and takes her to a more distant place. Meanwhile, Hexix is thinking that the boy in front of her killed the zombie dog, and quickly moved behind her so silently that she did not even notice. And observing him more closely, she concludes that he is not an ordinary guy. Jaewu grabs his pistol and wants to know if Hexix is still the same idiot as always. She laughs, and calling the MC brother, wants to know where the boy knows her from. Jaewu points his pistol and makes it clear that she is not to call him brother with her disgusting face. Hexix, upon seeing the pistol, starts laughing and comments that she knows the weapon has a longer range than her whip, but makes it clear to the MC that he had better aim well because her whip is much faster than loading bullets. Jaewu does not care and pulls the trigger, but as soon as he fires, Hexix manages to dodge the first shot and quickly throws her whip at the MC's body, who becomes alarmed when he feels his neck being grabbed. Hexix shouts for the boy to come to her and pulls him. Jaewu becomes worried as he is dragged and ends up taking a headbutt right in the face, and due to the blow, his nose starts bleeding heavily. He is then thrown back with full force. But Hexax shouts that it is not over yet and pulls him again. The MC manages to break free and quickly moves to the side, and, as soon as he gains momentum, charges straight at Hexax. She starts shouting, wanting to know if he is really trying to close the distance, then begins launching several whip attacks, forcing the MC to dodge them all. But as soon as she sees him evading her attacks, she starts to panic, thinking there is no way a mere boy could dodge so skillfully. And as she watches the MC coming at her with full force, she thinks that even compared to the entire unit, her whip skills were top-notch. And even so, she wonders if he really dodged all that and still closed the distance. Jaewoo readies his pistol, but Hexax moves quickly and shouts, wanting to know if the boy thinks she will simply let him shoot. And as soon as she tries to slash him with her claws, she is surprised to realize that he dodged again. Jaewoo gives a bizarre smile and tells her to look behind her. Hexax trembles in fear, worried, expecting the worst. Without any mercy, the MC delivers his strike, then points his dagger forward and wants to know what Hexax thinks of the taste of his dagger and if it is sour, but makes it clear that deep down he is a burst DPS. Hexax, with her hand over her eye, is stunned and thinks she was so focused on the gunfight that she ended up losing an eye. She then thinks she needs time to recover. Thus, she spreads her huge wings and, as she flies away, apologizes to the MC and says she has to go. Jaewoo tries to taunt her, asking if it is not because she is too scared. However, she turns and makes it clear that his taunts will not work because she does not engage in close-range fights. The MC points his pistol at her and makes it clear that today he is a long-range DPS. Hexax starts laughing and emphasizes that she will be able to dodge all his shots while in the air until she feels something strange and seeing some ghost beside the boy thinks her sense of distance is off. With that, she ends up being hit by a shot, and while the pistol is still smoking, Jaewoo comments that it was as he thought, that it is like shooting bats with a gun for full satisfaction. Quickly, Hexax begins to fall and soon crashes hard into the ground. Jaewoo approaches Hexax and, a little more relieved, comments that she, a damn pervert, was being a real pain. Then he makes a bizarre face and wants to know what kind of loot she will drop, but ends up seeing her trying to seduce him and wanting to know if the boy will really finish her off. She then starts crying and making a pitiful face, but Jaewoo does not care, shows her the middle finger, and makes it clear that she should stop that act and die like a dog, which leaves Hexax in disbelief at the boy's lack of feelings. Thus, she is severely finished off. It does not take long before the system notifies the MC that he has defeated Hexax, the Whip of Destruction, and an executive of the Demon King's faction, and that the dropped items are Hexax's cape and whip, as well as the magic binding rope, body enhancement potion, venom of the poisonous dragon Ferguma, antidote of the poisonous dragon Ferguma, and 2,000 florins. As soon as he collects all of Hexax's drops, Jaewoo breathes a sigh of relief and thinks that it seems he got everything, and looking at the potion that heals any wound, he thinks it is a good thing he did not sell it before, and also knows he had better move before it is too late. As soon as he drinks the potion, the system notifies him that he is completely healed. Then, the MC looks back, and seeing Valpurgis lying on the ground, promises that he will definitely save her. Jaewoo thinks about the perfect recovery potion, and, looking at the item's stats, knows that it completely restores the target's physical condition. However, he is quite surprised to see that the information includes a warning stating that the potion must be applied directly to the affected area. Then he starts trembling, as he knows this means only one thing. And, looking at Valpurgis unconscious on the ground, he knows he will have to remove her armor to apply the potion directly. Therefore, he begins to feel embarrassed, takes a deep breath, and thinks he needs to calm down, as this is only a medical procedure, and that under no circumstances will he think of anything inappropriate when removing the knight's armor. Then, he prepares to do so, and keeps thinking that he will not think of anything indecent. After that, the MC starts thinking that everyone may have forgotten, but his real name is Han Jaewoo, and that his father died of an illness when he was young, and his mother collapsed from overwork. Because of that, at 18 he was left alone, but soon after, in a certain place, a guy sitting on the ground was always complaining and Han Jaiwoo, at 22 years old, wanted to know what the guy's problem was, and if he was an amateur by any chance, as he even accepted jobs for money. And whenever he finished a job, the client would thank him and give him some money as a token of gratitude. And as soon as he counted the money to check if everything was correct, he would always tell the client that what he did was still only a temporary solution, and that if the client had money, they should pay the debt. But some would always complain about something first, which made the MC quite annoyed. However, one of these clients tried to explain that he would get the money from the week's mission, and that he thought it would yield about 10 million won. Jae-woo began observing the VR machine and wanted to know if the guy could really make that much money by playing just once. The client replied that yes, since it was a very important mission. At the time, Jae-woo wanted to know what kind of game the guy played, and he wanted to know if the MC had not yet heard of Humanity's Guardian. After saying no, the guy commented that he couldn't believe it, as the game was a huge open world with absolute freedom, along with impressive female character designs that were acclaimed worldwide. He then emphasized that it had more than 1 billion registered users, being a massive single-player RPG that had surpassed 1 billion users in total. The client also made it clear that the highest-ranked players easily earned tens of millions. Jae-woo was still skeptical and kept wanting to know if his client was really saying he made a lot of money with the game. He replied yes, and asked if the MC would like to try it. Jae-woo, after thinking for a bit, replied no, as he was busy that day. But as soon as he picked up his phone, he was a little surprised, since, in the message, someone was telling him that the appointment he had was canceled. Therefore, with free time, the MC decided to take a look at this game to see if it was true. And, as soon as he connected to the game and looked around, he commented that the technology of that time was crazy, because as soon as he observed the environment, he knew that the place he was in even seemed real. And, observing the people and merchants on the street, he knew it seemed very authentic. Then he quickly questioned himself if he was really inside a game, until, looking to the side and seeing an apple merchant, he concluded that the game really was very immersive. And, watching a guy shout in front of him, he wondered if that was a real face, as he could even see the man's pores, until he decided to pull the apple merchant's beard to see if it was real, and the merchant, at the same moment, shouted asking the boy to let go. Then he made it clear that if the boy didn't have money, he should get lost. At that moment, a system screen appeared for the MC, and he saw that his current money was 10 florins and concluded that it must be the game's currency. And while thinking it was better to save his money, a little girl approached the apple stand and commented that they looked really tasty. Jae-woo watched this, but soon the child's mother came over and called her to leave, as they didn't have money to buy any. At that moment, Jae-woo asked the merchant for an apple and how much it was. After buying the apple, he made sure to give it to the little boy, who was very happy, and while he ran off excitedly, the mother deeply thanked the MC for such a noble gesture. Jae-woo then became a bit thoughtful, questioning whether he had really done the right thing, as he knew he might need that money. But still, as the mother and the little boy were leaving, he shouted for the boy to always listen to his mother. Then he knew this brought back some memories, in which he remembered that when he lived with his mother, he was a brat who constantly begged her to buy fried chicken. So, after remembering this, he concluded that the game even had its charm. However, right after that, he began entering the game from time to time, and whenever reality became difficult, playing the game helped him relax. And so, he started logging into Humanity's Guardian more often, relieving real-world stress through the game. As soon as he recharged, he returned to living his real life, only to get tired again and go back into the game. Thus, eventually, the MC spent about 5 years in the game, until one day someone came up calling for him, wanting to know if he was Han Jaiwoo. It was Valpurgis, who said she had heard the MC had some skill. She then wanted to know what the MC thought about hunting the raging boars in Havel Forest. Jae-woo didn't understand the reason for the request, but Valpurgis wanted to know if he was afraid. He replied no, and that he would never be afraid of a mere boar, but said he was planning to eat boar meat for dinner anyway. Thus, it didn't take long for the two of them to defeat the creature. Valpurgis was impressed and commented that the MC was truly amazing, as he managed to defeat the great boar with just a single strike. Jae-woo replied that apparently She hadn't lifted a finger the whole time. Valpurgis explained that the MC was so strong she couldn't find a chance to interfere, but wanted to know if he would like to form a party with her. At that moment, Jaewoo noticed a system notification saying that Paladin Valpurgis had requested to join his party. Jaewoo wanted to know if her request wasn't just another contract to make him do all the work, like with the boar. Valpurgis wanted to know if, by any chance, he had some trust issues or something like that. Then she chuckled and said he was quite fun, and that she would recommend him as a Knight of the Empire, which left the MC very surprised upon hearing it. Thus, after some time, on a balcony in a city, there were several people shouting the MC's name, and as he approached the balcony, Valpurgis immediately commented that he was as impressive as always, and that she would never have imagined he would reach the position he was in. She then wanted to know how he felt being the Steel Elector. Jaewoo smiled and made it clear that the achievement was not his alone, as he knew that if she hadn't spoken to him that day, he would never have gotten there. Valpurgis wanted to know what he was talking about, as the people there were those he had saved and the peace that came with it. She then pointed to the crowd and made it clear that they were his loyal citizens. After remembering all this, we returned to the present time, and Valpurgis commented that the MC really was amazing. She then said that she knew she may not have lived that long, but she had never seen anyone with as much dedication to everything as him, and for that reason, she wanted to know why he did all this. With his face all swollen, certainly because Valpurgis must have hit him when she woke up and saw that he had removed her armor, Jaewoo replied that it was because he loved the world very much. The knight laughed and said she understood. The MC also said that he realized how beautiful the sky could be there, and that, besides the slight pain in his face, it was quite nice. Valpurgis keeps laughing non-stop and makes it clear that he shouldn't have taken off her armor. However, she quickly changes the subject and comments that, either way, they will be at the Valpurga convent soon. Jaewoo wants to know if she is sure they should inform them that she is alive so soon. She turns and says that when she returns, she will definitely repay his kindness, as she knows she owes him more than she can express in words. As soon as Jaewoo hears this, he makes a mischievous face and says he looks forward to it, but wants to know what he should ask for. She quickly warns that he is being perverted again. Then, as they continue riding, Valpurgis says that although it may not be her decision, she thinks the convent will fully reward him. Jaewoo says that's great, but makes it clear that what he really wants is her. Valpurgis again wants to know if the MC wants to get beaten up again. After arriving at the Valpurga convent, the knight is already nervous, yelling and wanting to know what Angela is saying, as the MC is an honored guest of their convent. Angela, with her huge strong arms, crosses them and makes it clear there is no avoiding it, as the convent is under emergency lockdown, and therefore Jaewoo will not be allowed in. Thus, after some time, at an inn near Rheinfelden, the MC is lying down thinking that this is a bit confusing, as he had been planning to demand the angel's heart from the convent, knowing that the angel's heart is an artifact passed down for hundreds of years in the Valpurga convent, a sacred rank S item filled with the blessing of a goddess, with the ability to call back the soul of the user, which is basically like having another life. Jaewoo knows it is indispensable, especially for a certain moment. Until Valpurgis opens the door to his room, Jaewoo immediately wants to know what she wants. The knight apologizes for leaving him in such a bad place despite him being an honored guest, but she is bothered by the way the MC is lying down and wants to know what the hell he is doing. He replies that he is just thinking about things. After talking for a while, Valpurgis makes it clear that what she is about to say is serious and confidential. Jaewoo promises to keep it secret for life. The knight likes to hear that and says she knew she could trust him. Thus, she says that the High Abbess has fallen into darkness. Jaewoo is shocked and says that he just met Abbess Angela a few hours ago. Valpurgis wants to know what he is talking about, as what he saw was the Vice Abbess, and that the current High Abbess is Lady Margareta. The knight also emphasizes that she thinks there must have been a traitor inside the convent and suspects it must be the work of the damned bastard Pezamut. While Jaewoo is shocked, wondering if Margareta is still alive, Valpurgis keeps calling him non-stop, and as she keeps asking if he is okay, Jaewoo thinks that he believed Margareta had died a long time ago, and because of that, hadn't paid attention since then. as he knows she is unmatched in martial prowess in Imperial history and can even subdue low-rank demon kings. She is the icon of strength, and she is also the figure who turned the Valpurga convent into a military force, and because of that, he knows they will have to save her. Thus, he quickly stands up. Valpurgis wants to know what got into him all of a sudden. Jae-woo, excited, wants to know if the High Abbess was really struck by darkness. The knight replies yes, and wants to know why he suddenly got so excited. He only replies that they will save her immediately. Valpurgis emphasizes that she knows the darkness better than anyone. Back at the Valpurga convent, Angela wants to know if the knight told the MC about the darkness. She replies yes, and that she told him everything. Valpurgis also points out that Jae-woo is a trustworthy man, so she suggests to Vice Abbess Angela that she try trusting him just this once. Angela comments that the knight seems to have told the boy quite a lot, until she slams the table hard, which leaves the MC very startled. Thinking that's quite an intense reaction, Angela calls for Valpurgis and comments that, as she knows, the incident in question was caused by a traitor, and for that reason, she wants to know if now she wants to trust some outsider. She then makes it clear that he isn't even worth listening to, and therefore asks the knight to escort him out immediately. Valpurgis is incredulous at the Vice Abbess's decision and tries to argue, but soon hears the MC calling her, and as soon as she turns, she sees him just smiling and commenting that he heard the High Abbess is in critical condition. Angela emphasizes that it's not a concern for an outsider like him. Jae-woo smiles and says that he read the Gospel of the Seven Demons. As soon as she hears this, the Vice Abbess starts trembling and quickly wants to know how he knows that, since it is the very book written directly by Saint Anthony. Jae-woo says that apparently Angela knows it well, as it's the book that details everything about the darkness in the end, and that moreover, the book contains a full account of the 7 demon kings who were sealed away and erased from the world, including Thashing Death, one of the great forces of darkness. Angela is even more shocked and says she can't believe it, and so she slams the table with a powerful punch and orders the boy to tell her how he knows such a book, as just saying the name already brings a curse, making it difficult to talk about. Jae-woo makes it clear that the Vice Abbess should trust him, and that he even understands in great detail how to oppose the darkness. While Angela is thinking about this, the MC makes a sinister face, thinking that he just cornered her with that, until, seeing no way out, Angela replies that fine, but in return, Jae-woo must take such a secret to the grave. She then stands, approaches the boy, and makes it clear that if he tells this to anyone else, he will regret it. Having said that, she breaks a piece of the table with her bare hands and, with a sinister look, says she will bury the MC at the bottom of a river. Thus, after that, they go to a place where several other people are accompanying them. However, Jae-woo feels a strange atmosphere and quickly wonders what kind of insane convent this is, especially since Angela broke that table with sheer brute force in her grip. He then starts to imagine what Margareta must be like, as he has never seen her face before, but thinks that judging by the Vice Abbess, Margareta must be 3 times bigger, until Valpurgis puts a hand on his shoulder and says he doesn't seem to be feeling well. A little startled, Jae-woo replies that he's fine, but looking at the other people there, wants to know if Valpurgis also plans to get a physique like theirs. She replies that she would very much like to, but her uncle is against it, and so she is holding back. Until they arrive at a door overflowing with dark energy from inside, and Valpurgis comments that they've arrived. Angela emphasizes that as the boy can see, the demonic energy is overwhelming and that he is not to lose his head. Angela then turns to the others and orders them to wait there, then says she will open the door, and as soon as she does, the demonic energy starts pouring out even stronger. Jae-woo is very impressed, thinking about the powerful demonic energy he is feeling, and if that weren't enough, the system warns that everyone there has received mental damage from the darkness. Jae-woo turns and wants to know if she is okay. She replies that yes, as she has the goddess's blessing, but wants to know if he is. The system warns that the MC's mind is protected from the darkness, so he comments that somehow he thinks he's fine. As soon as they enter the room, Angela says that there is the High Abbess. Jae-woo is quite impressed, as seeing the person in front of him, he wonders if this really is the person with the most impressive strength in history and the High Abbess of the Valpurga Convent, Margareta. Seeing a child, Jae-woo goes crazy and wants to know if the High Abbess was kidnapped. Angela is embarrassed and wants to know what the hell he is talking about. She then asks the MC to take this seriously, as she wants to know why else they would request the help of a mercenary like him. She then becomes furious and, as she starts crying, makes it clear that they have already tried various methods without success, and that he is the last resort. Thus, she grabs Jae-woo and shouts that they will pay any price if he can save the High Abbess. The MC kicks his legs in the air and asks that she first put him down. He then says that after seeing Margareta in person, he thinks she really does look gravely ill, and he also has in mind that since she is a priestess, the rate at which she is being consumed is twice that of a normal person. Jae-woo places his hand on the High Abbess's forehead and comments that the black veins reaching her neck are the proof. As soon as the MC removes his hand, he says it's fine and that he thinks there is a way. Angela grabs him again and shouts for him to tell her immediately. The system informs him that he received 50 damage from the grab, so he gets furious and shouts for the Vice Abbess to stop doing that all the time. As soon as Angela lets him go, she tries to calm down while the MC watches her with an annoyed face. But Jae-woo takes a deep breath and says the method is quite simple, in which they just need to use the convent's sacred relic on the High Abbess. Angela looks at Margareta, and as she starts to run her hand over her face, wants to know if by treasure the MC means the angel's heart. She then says she understands the situation, but emphasizes that with the curse of darkness afflicting the High Abbess, she wants to know if the MC intends to transfer it to another person and have them absorb it, since she knows that divine power and curses are opposites, and that during the transfer, the High Abbess's death would be inevitable, hence the need for the angel's heart. Jae-woo confirms and stresses that the curse is fatal for all clerics, and that therefore no one in the convent could perform such a method, which is precisely why he is there, just a mercenary. He then makes it clear that, in other words, he is the most qualified person to transfer the curse. That said, he wants to know if his argument isn't convincing enough. Angela takes a deep breath, then apologizes to the boy, but makes it clear that such a method is not allowed, as there is a message from the High Abbess stating the darkness is mine, and no one else will sacrifice themselves in my place. Thus, Angela emphasizes that if anyone does it, it will bring down the entire empire. And with a sinister look, she says that moreover, the curse there is of darkness and its cause and symptoms are unknown, being an incomprehensible curse. She then wants to know if the MC really thinks he would survive that. Standing up, she walks toward the boy and, looking into his eyes with a sinister expression, makes it clear that if he does what he's thinking, the curse will haunt him for the rest of his life. Valpurgis agrees with the Vice Abbess and says there is no reason for the MC to sacrifice himself in the High Abbess's place. Jae-woo replies to Valpurgis that he will be fine, and as soon as he turns, he makes it very clear to Angela that he really might be the best option. He then explains that he read the Gospel of the Seven Demons and knows darkness well, and that he is not a cleric and therefore not vulnerable to it, and that he is also just an outsider, as the Vice Abbess herself made very clear. Angela thinks about the boy's attitude, but he keeps asking her to admit she is a little tempted by the idea. Seeing no way out, the Vice Abbess takes a deep breath and says she thinks that as soon as the High Abbess wakes up, she will be in big trouble, but that she knows everything will be fine afterward, so she tells the boy to act as he wishes. After bringing the angel's heart, which revitalizes the user's soul once, Jae-woo puts the ring on his finger and thinks he should save it to use later, but he knows the opportunity he has is perfect to make the High Abbess an ally. Valpurgis, worried about Jae-woo, wants to know if he really has to do this, as there is still time not to, but the Vice Abbess calls for the night and holds her. She then makes it clear that the boy is also a man, and that all that's left is to watch and see the outcome. As soon as he prepares, Jae-woo says he is ready and will begin the ritual. Jae-woo starts reciting a chant in an ancient language, and as soon as he places his hand on the High Abbess's forehead, he quickly feels the powerful darkness entering his body. Angela and Valpurgis are frightened witnessing this. The dark energy grows stronger and stronger, and until, out of nowhere, Jaewoo is taken to a completely different place, almost as if it were space. Looking around, he wonders if this is the realm of darkness, as it is completely black, until he becomes startled when he hears someone saying they are the one who crouches in the grave and wants to know who dares summon them. Jaewoo starts shouting, introducing himself and asking the voice he just heard to immediately remove the curse from High Abbess Margareta. While the MC is looking around, the voice begins to laugh and calls him a pathetic mortal, saying he is incapable of even perceiving its form. As soon as Jaewoo looks up, he is terribly frightened as he is facing a colossal, enormous eye, almost as if it were a terrifying, incomprehensible entity. The being makes it clear to the MC that it has no business with him and therefore tells him to get lost immediately. Jaewoo receives a message from the system informing him that his soul is protected. The being is completely surprised and wonders how it cannot extract the soul of a mere human. Jaewoo gets nervous and tells the darkness to shut up, ordering it to remove Margareta's curse and transfer it to him. The being grows even more impatient, tells the MC to shut up, and warns that if he does not say who he is right now, it will extract the souls that have ever been in the same space as him. Jaewoo becomes concerned, thinking the being will try to take hostages, but he knows two can play this dirty game too, so he shouts that he read the Gospel of the Seven Demons, which leaves the entity very surprised, wanting to know what he means. Jaewoo says he traded his dog for it, being from thrashing death itself. The MC continues mocking the entity, saying he thinks it is probably selling cheap to other sages at the moment. He then makes it clear that if the entity keeps insisting on this, he thinks even the color of its underwear will be exposed. The darkness replies that fine, it will grant the boy's request. Jaewoo thinks he managed to trick the entity, but the darkness says there is a condition for that. Jaewoo shouts that this is exactly what he wanted, but is soon very surprised by the system screen that appears in front of him, as it is a mission in which he will have to eliminate all the demon kings supported by thrashing death. And they are: 5th in rank, the demon king of nihility, Kulak; 7th in rank, the demon king of darkness and sky, Farza; 14th in rank, the demon king of gluttony and greed, Herzamak; and 17th in rank, the demon king of nightmares and illusion, Amur. Jaewoo tells the darkness he thinks this is more for a weakling like it. The entity becomes angry, calls him a pathetic worm, and makes it clear that now he is to endure the power of darkness. And then an intense light begins to blind the MC's vision. Jaewoo starts to panic, wanting to know if the entity is trying to kill him, as that was not the deal. The entity makes it clear that nothing in its world is free, and that he is to hold on tight, for with great power comes a great price. While trying to resist, Jaewoo replies yes, but asks the entity to wait a moment, yet the darkness doesn't care, and continues doing what it's doing, leaving the MC even more frightened, shouting for it to wait, until the system informs that Jaewoo has obtained the title of Cold-Blooded and that his attributes have drastically increased, along with a new attribute, that of Darkness, and a new rank S skill has also been unlocked, Undead Summoning. Then the system informs that he has died. The next day, at the Valpurga convent, Jaewoo wakes up startled and immediately wonders if he is really alive, and looking at the angel's heart ring, he concludes that apparently yes. He then starts laughing, and then laughing like a madman, as he knows he is now a king of necromancy, commanding legions of liches, undead, and even death dragons, being the cold-blooded. He then stands and shouts that out of all 1 billion players in the game Humanity's Guardian, he is number 1. He also thinks that the world is finally recognizing him, until Valpurgis opens the door and catches him striking such a ridiculous pose. While crying, she wants to know if Jaewoo hit his head. The knight then says that after the ritual, he lost consciousness, so she brought him to her room. The MC thanks her and asks her not to worry, as he is fine. Valpurgis makes it clear that he is never to do something so reckless again, and thus wants to know if he has any idea how worried she was. The MC thinks about this, but places his hand over hers and, a little embarrassed, apologizes and promises he will never do it again. The knight wants to know if he really promises that. Jaewoo replies yes, and that she can stop worrying now, until suddenly an explosion happens outside, leaving them both startled. As soon as they go outside, Jaewoo asks the vice abbess what happened. Angela comments that he has finally woken up. Jaewoo, looking around, wants to know if that bastard Pezamut came through and destroyed all the trees or something, until he is startled by a huge noise behind him. And as soon as he turns to see what the hell is going on, he sees someone holding a huge tree and saying that she has been lying down for so long and just wanted to stretch a bit. And, looking at the MC, she makes it clear that it is a pleasure to meet him, her savior. Then, while standing atop one tree and holding another, she says she is the High Abbess of the Valpurga Convent. She then throws the huge tree to the ground as if it were nothing, creating a massive impact. It is the High Abbess Margarita, all excited, who immediately asks the MC to call her Mari. After introducing herself, Margarita takes the MC to an underground location. And while they are descending the stairs, Jae-woo thinks that at this point, Philip must have already left the forest and finally obtained the highest rank in the necromancy system, the Cold Blood, and that with this power, he was planning to secretly eliminate the Elector of Steel. But he knows that since this guy is a guardian, without the Angel's Heart, he thinks the chances of being able to are quite low, and that precisely because of this, he cannot lower his guard until the end. At that moment, Mari shouts excitedly, saying that it is time for an adventure. Angela takes a deep breath and asks the High Abbess to try to maintain her composure. Mari wants to know why, and says that this is the true evil of noble societies. Jae-woo quietly asks Valpurgis if Margarita has always been so exaggerated, or if perhaps she is just naturally lively. The knight, a little embarrassed, apologizes to the MC and says that the High Abbess has always been like that. Until Margarita looks back and sees the MC wanting to know how a child like the Abbess is the strongest of the convent's military forces. Thus, Margarita wants to know what is going on there and what the two are whispering about so much. Jae-woo becomes a little embarrassed and replies that it is nothing, that he was just clearing up a doubt. With that, as soon as they arrive in front of a huge door, Margarita says that they have arrived at Valpurgis's underground storage. Then, the High Abbess tells the MC that the place is full of unimaginable magical tools for the convent, and that it is perfect for a cursed one like him. Jae-woo comments that he understands and thanks the High Abbess for bringing him to such a place. Margarita takes his hand and, laughing, says that he doesn't need to thank her, and emphasizes that if she could, she would even go out with him. Valpurgis, as soon as she hears this, begins to burn with fury, grabs the High Abbess's head, and she asks the knight not to worry, as someone would get very angry and then she would do nothing. Then, the High Abbess runs to the door and says that everyone must hurry because she is very excited. Jae-woo, seeing this, thinks that everything is so chaotic. As soon as the door opens, a light emerges from inside. The MC begins to get excited and thinks that so far everything is going well, and that he has in mind that he will get stronger there, and then the hunt for the Elector of Steel will begin. After a while, and as soon as they leave the weapons depot, Jae-woo sees Philip and tells him about his new equipment, and soon wants to know if it doesn't look amazing. The system notifies that the MC is equipped with a rank S curse equipment, which negates minor curses below the rank of the equipment, and the ability of the equipment is the Shadow Explosion. Jae-woo comments that he knows this will not let him down anywhere, since he has the magic dagger of the rank, a Monster Karka, which increases undead abilities for users. The horse soon gives a good lick on the MC's face, who ends up noticing the presence of the knight, who in turn wants to know if he would leave without saying anything, and if they could take one last walk together. Thus, they begin to walk through the forest, and Valpurgis emphasizes that although they have met recently, she feels like they have known each other for a long time. Jae-woo wants to know if it really seems that way. Valpurgis says that maybe it is because the MC has done so much for her. However, Jae-woo makes it clear that it was she who helped him a lot, both in the battle against the orc troops and in the final confrontation with Hexax, and that the knight's help was invaluable. She thanks the MC for saying that, but the atmosphere becomes tense between them. The knight wants to know if the MC does not seem particularly curious about something. Jae-woo becomes a little embarrassed and wants to know exactly what she is talking about. Valpurgis asks him not to play dumb and says that she thinks he must be very curious to know about her face under the helmet she is wearing. Jae-woo becomes even more embarrassed and tries to disguise it by saying that he imagined that there must be a reason, and that is why he never asked. The knight smiles and says she understands, but explains that in fact under the helmet there is a large scar, the mark of a curse, and that she doesn't even know what curse it is, since her uncle desperately tried to hide it, saying that people should never find out about it. Valpurgis also says that this is why people call her the Ugly Knight, as it is a nickname given by those who know nothing of her circumstances. Therefore, she wants to know if the MC would like to take a look at her face. As she begins to remove the helmet, Valpurgis emphasizes that she feels a little nervous, but that if it is for him, she feels that he will see her as she really is. As soon as she removes it, Jaewoo is very impressed. Valpurgis immediately wants to know what she looks like and what he thinks. Jaewoo puts his hand over his mouth, unable to believe what he is seeing, and she, embarrassed, asks him to say it quickly. Jaewoo is completely flustered, lost in her beauty, and then apologizes for the delay and says that he is paralyzed by her beauty. She wants to know if he is serious, as hearing that from him makes her much more relieved. But the MC thinks that no way this happened, since he has in mind that he has seen Valpurgis in all his playthroughs, but she never revealed her face before. Then, the knight tells the MC that there is something she wants to give him. Jaewoo becomes even more embarrassed and very nervous, asks what it would be. Thus, the knight shows a necklace and explains that it is a treasure of the House of Bayern, passed down by her uncle. Jaewoo wants to know why she wants to give him something so valuable. She replies that it is a symbol, to symbolize that she will always be with him. Very impressed with her gesture, the MC carefully observes the necklace in his hand and makes it clear that he will cherish it greatly. Valpurgis wants to know if this is then a promise, but Jaewoo turns away even more embarrassed and comments that he thinks he is already late and that he has to leave. The knight replies that it is fine and wishes him luck on his journey. The MC points ahead and asks her to go first, but she insists that he must go first. Philly just watches, irritated at the two arguing over who will go first. Thus, after a while, the system notifies that the hidden story of the lineage of the Prince Electors of Bayern has been unlocked, and that Valpurgis's romance route has been opened. As he continues his journey through a forest, the horse is still very irritated at having to listen to the MC talk nonsense with the knight. Jaewoo keeps thinking about the mission he received regarding Valpurgis and wonders if at this rate he will end up marrying her, until suddenly he starts to smell something strange in the air and soon notices several fallen soldier corpses around and wonders what happened there. But upon observing the chaotic scene more closely, he thinks that judging by the state of the battlefield, Philip and Pezamut fought fiercely, and it seems that they are not in condition to continue. Thus, he takes his dagger, and as soon as he draws it, he thinks that he will have to search the area. And as soon as he sees the system screen about his weapon, he becomes very excited and quickly activates the ability of his dagger, asking his blood-soaked followers to become his members. With that, he summons his legion of vampires. Jaewoo points to one of them and orders that his first mission is to search the entire area and track the Elector of Steel. Then, he points to another summon, who quickly responds that she is under the command of her lord. Jaewoo makes it clear that she is to gather all the military uniforms scattered around. Meanwhile, in a small town, the Elector of Steel and some of his soldiers are hiding and worried that they will be discovered. Philip is furious, thinking that he, the Elector of Steel, ended up being caught in such a mess, and swears that Pezamut will pay, as well as his uncle for betraying him. Then, the Elector of Steel takes food supplies from a soldier's hand, who in turn warns His Highness that it is for an emergency. But Philip does not care and starts eating everything, until in the middle of the town, someone appears walking and shouting the name of the Elector of Steel and announcing that it is the mercenary he met before. It is the MC, who immediately shouts, introducing himself. Philip, as soon as he hears that name, quickly turns around commenting that he remembers him, but one of his guards tries to warn him that he thinks it might be dangerous, and that perhaps it is an enemy trap, and that because of this, they need to observe the situation first. However, the Elector of Steel becomes irritated, slaps the soldier across the face, and tells him to shut up. Then he makes it clear that while the MC came there to save him, he wants to know what the hell they were doing the whole time. Next, he emphasizes that they are pathetic worms not even worth living, and that they will all be demoted to subordinates of the MC when all this is over. At that moment, a door opens, and as soon as the Elector of Steel sees the MC accompanied by his summons, he crouches down and says he was hiding there. Jaewoo laughs and says that he missed him, and that he fought in the deep forest to get to him. Philip is amazed by the MC's attitude and quickly thanks him for bringing such reliable reinforcements, and that, moreover, Jaewoo is the only one he can count on, and that he will make sure he is rewarded. Jaewoo gives a sinister smile and makes it clear that this will not be necessary. Thus, his summons quickly eliminate the Elector of Steel's guards, leaving him perplexed at the scene. Jaewoo begins to laugh sinisterly and says that he will no longer need his highness. Philip stands before the MC and his summons and, while releasing his aura and preparing to draw his sword, calls the mercenary a puppy and comments that he heard it said that a kitten does not know how to fear the mighty tiger. Then he gives a sinister look and makes it clear that he has been raising a stray mutt the whole time. Jaewoo laughs, comments that he is right and that he is a damn mutt and that he thinks he will bite someone like the Elector of Steel. Hearing this makes the Elector of Steel incredibly furious, who quickly draws his sword and activates his technique of the first form of the Lunar Shadow sword art. Then he delivers his Crescent Slash, which cuts down some of the MC's summons, forcing him to jump back to avoid being hit. The Elector of Steel continues unleashing his ability on the summons. Jaewoo thinks this was already expected, as he knew the vampires could not handle Philip alone, and, observing some of their bodies lying on the ground, keeps in mind that if he continues fighting like this, he will only waste his mana. Then he turns and orders some of his summons to retreat immediately. Philip wants to know if the MC feels a bit of pain watching his little lackeys die right before him. Jaewoo begins to release some of his power and makes it clear that he is not like a certain someone. Then, as the Elector of Steel comes at him with full force, Jaewoo emphasizes that his heart is as vast as an endless plain. Thus, the two begin to fight frenetically, and each of them apparently seems quite excited by the clash. Jaewoo grabs a chair and throws it in front of the prince, who quickly shatters it with a single strike and, in the blink of an eye, completely slices the rest of it, causing the pieces to hit the MC, who thinks that this is the Elector of Steel, and that the sword style he used and admired hurts a lot. Although elegant and beautiful, he knows its verse contains a deadly counterattack waiting to strike. Thus, while watching Philip right in front of him, he concludes that the Elector of Steel is the master of counterattacks. Next, Philip points his sword at the MC and wants to know if he really thinks he can turn his back and still live in peace in Pulse. Jaewoo comments that he doesn't know if the Elector of Steel knows, but that he is quite a friend of the convent's nuns. Philip laughs and comments that apparently the mercenary has powerful connections, but emphasizes that he is not even a little afraid of militant religious groups like them. That said, he quickly leaps and prepares his technique of the second form of the Lunar Shadow Sword, and as soon as he delivers the attack, he is surprised, since his strike was easily blocked. Then he begins trembling in pain due to the impact of the clash of weapons, and then reflects on all the internal injuries he has suffered so far, until Jaewoo shouts, saying that the Elector of Steel's melodrama will end there. With that, he lands a powerful kick right in the middle of the prince's stomach, who spits blood immediately. Jaewoo apologizes and emphasizes that those Philip should really fear are not the nuns, but him, a mercenary. The Elector of Steel falls to his knees on the ground from the powerful kick he took and, furious, comments that if only his body were in better shape, he is certain that someone like the MC would never win. Then he screams, wanting to know why Jaewoo is trying to eliminate him, since he really appreciated his talent and granted him many blessings. Jaewoo becomes furious, curses the Elector of Steel, and wants to know if he really doesn't understand what he did wrong, because he will explain gently. Thus, he walks up to him, drives his dagger into one of Philip's legs, and says that first, he completely ignored his orders and was betrayed for it, and second, he ruthlessly discarded Valpurgis, who worked so hard for him. And while he starts moving the dagger from side to side, making a lot of blood pour out, Jaewoo wants to know how many people Philip thinks died because of him. Then, with a threatening look, he also wants to know how he still calls himself the Elector of Steel. Philip begins to cry and asks the mercenary to think of everything he did for the people, because if he dies there, who would feed the remaining citizens? And that his absence will be a golden opportunity for the other electors, and that they will not hesitate to seize Pulse the moment he is eliminated. While taking something from his clothes, Jaewoo comments that he understands and that he will give him a chance. Then he takes a potion and says that its effect completely heals anything, and that if he accepts his offer, he will give it with great pleasure. Philip wants to know what that is, and says that he will give everything to the MC. Just say it. Thus, Jaewoo approaches the Elector of Steel and, while releasing his fearsome aura and looking deep into his eyes with his piercing gaze, orders him to kneel and beg forgiveness from Valpurgis. Philip wants to know if she is really alive, because if she is, he will do it. And, as a demonstration of good faith, he will also donate 10,000 florins to House Bayern. Jaewoo places the potion on the ground and comments that he thinks that is great, and that apparently the Elector of Steel even seems to possess some sense, and that, because of this, he will give him the entire bottle. Philip thanks the MC and quickly takes the potion and begins to drink it, but soon feels something strange and throws the bottle with all his strength to the ground. As the Elector of Steel begins to feel sick, Jaewoo wants to know how the potion tastes, since in fact, it is the poison of the dragon for Guma. The Elector of Steel begins to vomit blood, and while he keeps getting worse, wants to know how the MC dares to mock him. Jaewoo takes another bottle of poison and, utterly delighted, says that it is the kind of deadly poison that even eliminates demon kings. With a little strength left, Philip becomes furious, takes a knife from his clothes, and charges at Jaewoo, but something passes by the MC at incredible speed, and one of his summons, with his enormous sword, cuts off the Elector of Steel's arm, making him cry from the pain. And as soon as he looks to the side to see who attacked him, he is stunned to realize who it is, and then wants to know if it is Piffenheim and if he is still alive, because he thought the zombie dogs had eliminated him that day. Piffenheim replies yes, and says that on that day, in fact, he abandoned him and was betrayed, left to die, but that later Lord Jaewoo granted him a second life, and that now he serves the MC and not the Elector of Steel. Then he makes it clear to Philip that his arrogance always put those around him in danger, and as soon as Piffenheim places his sword on the Elector of Steel's neck, he makes it clear that it is time for him to pay the price with his life. Philip begins crying in desperation. At that moment, a system notification arrives, asking the MC if he will allow Piffenheim to eliminate the Guardian, and that the death of the Guardian may interfere with the progression of the game. Jaewoo is intrigued by this, and wonders if it is really possible for the game's progression to be altered as soon as the Guardian is eliminated. And, watching how the Elector reacts, he becomes furious and questions why the hell the game's progression would change because of such trash. Then he thinks that he doesn't care, and that he wouldn't take the Elector of Steel along even if the game gave him, so he asks Piffenheim to finish Philip. Without thinking twice, the servant of the MC brutally eliminates the Elector of Steel, and it doesn't take long for an error to occur in the system, which notifies that the Guardian has been eliminated. Next, the system announces that the hidden scenario of eliminating the Guardians has been unlocked, and that if all the Guardians are killed, the MC will obtain the Transcendent class, and the game's difficulty at that moment will be increased. Jaewoo is intrigued, thinking about the increase in the game's difficulty, but only smiles and looks up, thinking that he can bet not even Aquila expected this move. Meanwhile, from far, very far away, outside the world, the goddess is watching the MC, and with a sinister look wonders if he really broke a seal, and while she keeps watching him, she sees the expression he is making, and thinks that indeed, he is so full of confidence. And as soon as she turns off her TV, she thinks that she wants to see him crush a little more, especially since she knows this is just the beginning. Back where the MC is, he is receiving several system messages notifying that he obtained the rank S skill of the Lunar Shadow Sword art, in addition to the rank A Coral Princess skill, the rank SS Agitation of the Empire skill, the rank SS Mephistopheles' acting skill, and finally the rank SS Dignity of the Great Leader skill. Jaewoo is excited about the skills he received, and thinks that this was already expected from someone at the level of an Elector, besides also having obtained 2 rank S skills exclusive to the class as a level-up reward, being the rank S Blood Absorption Tears skill. But looking at the item in his hand, he wonders if it is the only drop, because on the surface, it just seems like a normal magic zipper, until the item suddenly releases some lightning, and the MC feels the shock while the system warns that he has been blocked by a barrier. Jaewoo keeps wondering about it, and then thinks that he will have to ask Margareta to unlock it later. However, he notices another system screen notifying that he obtained the essence of the Guardian, in which, if he collects 5, it will allow him to ascend to a transcendent being. However, the system explains that each time a Guardian is killed, the seal that protects the world from darkness weakens. Jae-woo is very intrigued by this matter of becoming transcendent and breaking the seal of the world, but he looks at the body of the Elector of Steel and thinks that, in other words, it means he will have to be very careful when hunting them. Then he begins to imagine himself as a transcendent being and wonders if he will end up being alone. Then he wonders if he will remain with the other Guardians or if he will find a completely different path. At that moment, Piffenheim appears running, calling for his lord and saying that he found it. Then he shows a scroll and says that it is exactly as his lord had said. They examined the remains left by Philip's men and ended up finding it. As soon as Jae-woo opens it, he comments that he thinks it must be the main reward of his mission, and that, judging by the glow of the item, he thinks the drop is on another level. The MC still thanks Piffenheim for the good work, but wants to know if he finished the side job he had given. He replies that yes, and says that as instructed, they dressed one of Philip's men in the clothes of the Petsamut faction and disguised them perfectly as demons. Jae-woo claps his hands and makes it clear that they are perfect, until they hear one of the Elector of Steel's soldiers begging for forgiveness and saying that he will do anything if they let him live. Jae-woo goes to the soldier and immediately wants to know who he is. Piffenheim says that he is one of Philip's subordinates who was hiding, so he wants to know what they will do with him. The MC starts thinking of something and soon has an idea. And seeing the soldier saying that he will do anything to have his life spared, Jae-woo smiles and, very excited, comments that he eagerly hopes Petsamut really appreciates his gift. Meanwhile, in another place, an army is marching and the Royal Guard Lawrence, captain under the direct command of Roland, is leading the soldiers until he notices something that catches his attention, since he is seeing several soldiers of Petsamut. Then he shouts, ordering all the troops to stop. One of the soldiers comments to Sir Lawrence that he thinks it looks like there was a battle there with Petsamut's forces. He replies that apparently yes, until another soldier arrives carrying one of the men who survived and informs Lawrence that they found a survivor. The Royal Guard asks them to take him immediately with care because they need to interrogate him. After some time interrogating the surviving soldier, Lawrence wants to know if the soldier is saying that the item was stolen. The blonde boy replies yes, and that after that, they were surrounded by Petsamut's forces, and, in his desperation to save the Elector of Steel, he ended up hiding. However, he is interrupted by the Royal Guard, who quickly wants to know if the blonde boy is saying that while his companions were dying, he hid. Trembling with fear, the blonde boy replies yes, and Lawrence slams his sword on the ground with all his strength and, furious, comments that if only he had been a little faster. Then, he goes to the blonde boy and, while grabbing him, comments that he never imagined he risked his life to protect his superior, and that because of this, he is an exemplary knight. Then he turns and shouts, asking all the troops to listen carefully. Thus, he says that the soldier there risked his life to protect the commander of them all, and that although they lost the battle, the spirit of knighthood remains intact, and that everyone should follow his example and search for Philip all night. The next day, at the Roserant Rose Palace, someone is walking, and the Royal Guard Lawrence arrives and introduces himself. Furious, he comments that as ordered, they pursued the forces of Petsamut and found traces of Philip, but that he has already escaped and his exact whereabouts are unknown. The woman takes a deep breath and comments that she understands but wants to know about the item because she is sure that the Elector of Steel was the one who carried it. Lawrence says that the bastards of Petsamut took it. The woman comments that the name Petsamut is already becoming terribly tiresome. Lawrence begins shouting apologies and says that her ladyship should punish him if necessary. She replies that it is fine, but that at the moment the item in question is more important since it is the only way to restore Philip to the position of Elector. At that moment, the Royal Guard punches the ground with all his strength, but the woman makes it clear to him that the Elector of Steel is not someone who would die so easily. Thus, she asks Lawrence to go to Petsamut and deliver a message, in which he is to tell them to hand over the item they are after, or it will not be so fun. This is Roland Rose, a demonic queen. Meanwhile, at Petsamut's base, he is very surprised wanting to know what he just heard. and if that crazy woman really resurrected. His henchman replies yes. Petsamut comments that it is impossible and wonders if the monstrous Margareta really returned because his trap was perfect. The subordinate wants to know if she is still not just a mere human. Petsamut becomes very frightened and comments that he does not understand. Then he says that he has not forgotten that that woman invaded Off's domain alone and killed all his subordinates in addition to cutting off all their heads. Petsamut, still very frightened, asks his subordinate if he knows what started such a massacre at the time. He replies that he does not know and asks His Highness to tell him. Petsamut says that one of Alf's men stepped on her snack. Since then, the demon kings refer to her as Margareta, the Storm, and the Annihilation, until suddenly, another subordinate of Petsamut appears shouting that a message from the demonic queen Rolin has just arrived. Petsamut is incredulous and wants to know if it is really true. The subordinate begins to tremble and comments that he is not exactly sure. While the subordinate delivers the message, Petsamut thinks that this is not the best time and wonders what tantrum Rolin will have now. And as soon as he reads the message, a little suspicious, he is surprised and thinks that that woman is crazy. Then he begins shouting, wanting to know why the hell she thinks he has that item. Petsamut stands up and keeps shouting, wanting to know what happened for that lunatic to be asking for that item. The subordinate, hearing this, is very surprised and deeply intrigued, wondering why Rolin would think they had that item since they did not even come close and in fact lost Hexax while chasing Philip, and that everything is very suspicious because there was the resurrection of Margareta and the sudden disappearance of that item. So he knows everything has a final result, but the cause remains vague, until he has an idea and wonders if there could really be a mastermind behind everything that is happening. At the same time, in another place, the MC sneezes and Piffenheim wants to know if his lord is starting to get sick. Jaiwu replies no and explains that his nose is just itching. Piffenheim wants to know what his lord plans to do with Philip's corpse. Jaiwu replies that he will use it later as an undead servant. Piffenheim comments that it is a fitting fate for an elector and that he is quite eager to see it. Jaiwu takes an item in his hand and comments that leaving all that aside, what matters most is there, the Golden Imperial Edict. And as soon as he opens it, the system informs that the Golden Imperial Edict is a document stamped with the Golden Seal of the Empire and that it serves as proof of the authority of an elector. Then he thinks that he would never have imagined having both Philip's corpse and the Golden Imperial Edict in his hands. Thus, he calls for Piffenheim, who quickly responds to his lord's call. While holding the Golden Edict, Jaiwu begins to tremble all over and then shouts saying that now the world will be his. Piffenheim shouts too, asking for long life to his lord. After a while, in another place, some people are traveling with a caravan and a man comments to the merchant guild leader that this time he profited a lot. He laughs and replies yes, and says that with the economic blockade order, this is his last chance and that they will have to get everything they can. And while emphasizing that they will drink until they drop dead when they return, some people are spying on them from the top of a tree until an arrow hits the merchant guild leader squarely, leaving his partner in shock seeing it. It doesn't take long, and the people who are hiding in the trees begin to jump down and shout that they are to plunder everything the merchants have. The guards quickly position themselves and shout that they are under attack and that everyone is to grab their weapons. And a battle begins. The bandit leader comments to the merchants that they did a lot and that he thinks that must be why they negotiated with Rolin. The merchant guild leader's partner wants to know what the hell the bandit thinks he is doing and if they even know where the money goes. However, the man does not care, and while breaking the soldier's defense, he wants to know what that matters to them. His attack was so strong that he ends up throwing the guard leader hard against a tree and, without wasting time, strikes a blow with all his strength next to his head. And with a sinister expression, he makes it clear that if the man has a problem, he should go cry to Valpurgis and also to her uncle. Meanwhile, Valpurgis is tending to the MC's wounds, who in turn, all embarrassed, comments that it hurts a little. She asks him to stay still but wants to know where he got so hurt, until suddenly, Margareta bursts through the door and sees that the MC has returned, which leaves the two of them quite embarrassed since they were alone there. Margareta becomes intrigued by something, and as soon as she notices, she shouts saying that Valpurgis removed the helmet. After sitting down and starting to drink her beverage, The High Abbess makes it clear to Valpurgis that she will cause a heart attack in an old woman like her at this rate. The knight smiles and apologizes to the High Abbess. Then Margareta emphasizes that she understands that feeling of not wanting to hide one's true self, and then wants to know if that is not how a woman's heart is. Valpurgis gives an awkward laugh and replies yes. Margareta approaches the MC and asks him to take very good care of Valpurgis, but then changes her expression to a sinister one and makes it clear that if he ever makes Valpurgis shed a single tear, she will break him in half. Then she wants to know if he had said that Philip is dead. He replies yes, and says that his corpse is now in the custody of his subordinate. Margareta takes a deep breath and comments that then the Elector of Steel is dead. Jaewoo wants to know if that is a problem. She replies no, and with her frightening expression, says that she really wanted to be the one to finish him. Jaewoo is quite scared by the pressure he feels coming from the High Abbess, and concludes that it really was better for Philip to have died by his hands. Then Jaewoo turns and, while taking something from his bag, comments that he has a gift for the High Abbess. Then he gives her some bags of gold coins, and says that it is what he collected from the remains of Philip's soldiers. Thus, he emphasizes that with the money, she can buy any snack she wants. Very impressed, Margareta wants to know if the MC is some kind of saint of compassion or something like that. The High Abbess also comments that suddenly he started to look more handsome, but he asks her to stop that immediately until Valpurgis notices something and, looking at the MC's things, wants to know what those bundles of paper are. Jaewoo says that they are letters exchanged between Philip and Roland, and that it seems Roland was trying to make Philip emperor, and that the relationship of the current emperor with Roland is bad because of fiscal issues. The High Abbess confirms and emphasizes that it is just like the current economic blockade order. Jaewoo becomes confused and wants to know what that economic blockade order is. Margareta wants to know if he didn't know. Then she says that the emperor is confiscating assets from all merchant guilds linked to Roland, and that because of this, the houses of the nearby knights are in turmoil, and that is why House Ritter attacked the Ignis Merchant Guild. Margareta emphasizes that thanks to that, her poor Valpurgis was going through a lot of mental stress. Valpurgis tries to stop the High Abbess from saying anything, and she realizes she said too much. But Jaewoo wants to know if something is wrong. The High Abbess becomes very embarrassed, but Valpurgis says it is fine, and says that she will explain. Later, in the MC's room, he is thinking that this became such a tangled mess because he would not have thought that the Emperor's economic blockade would turn into a great confrontation with the Elector of Bayern, until Jaewoo becomes startled when he hears Valpurgis opening his room door and calling him. After entering and sitting, she becomes a little embarrassed and says that she would like the MC to forget everything he heard earlier, because that originally had nothing to do with him. Jaewoo makes it clear that he cannot do that, since if it is something involving her, he wants to help her. She thanks him, but emphasizes that the situation has become too big. Then she explains that if she receives his help in this matter, she will also feel very guilty. Jaewoo reflects on this and thinks that he knows Valpurgis is trustworthy, but at the same time, he knows that she still lacks experience and her heart is too soft. Then he takes her hand and says that indeed, this is too big a matter for a mercenary like him. She replies yes, and that this time she thinks he will not be able to help her. But Jaewoo interrupts her and makes it clear that he still wants to help. He then emphasizes that mercenaries can still be useful in their own way. Valpurgis laughs and comments that only he would make jokes at a moment like the one they are going through. He still emphasizes that besides all that, he is quite confident, which leaves her confused, wanting to know what he means. The next day, he is walking through the convent and the nuns are watching him. As soon as he arrives at a door, he bursts it open and calls for Margareta. She is startled because she was caught eating several snacks. He shows her the magic zipper that Philip had and wants to know if she is not curious about the countless gold coins inside it. Then he shouts that if she opens it immediately, he thinks the reward may be doubled. Then he wants to know if she wants to try. She shouts excitedly, saying she will triple it. Thus, some time passes, and the MC, while continuing his journey, remembers the conversation he had with the High Abbess, who, while entering a bathtub filled with gold coins, gave him some gloves, which he quickly wanted to know what they were for. Margarita explained that they were an updated version of the magic zipper he had just opened. After recalling this, seeing the summoned item in his hand, he comments that he had never seen anything like it, and even thinks they might have introduced an update or something similar. And while he takes the flask to drink water, he thinks that convenience patches are always welcome. However, he squeezes the flask too hard and ends up splashing a lot of water on his own face. Jaewoo wants to know why his horse suddenly stopped. Embarrassed, he just points forward, and the MC is quite surprised to see the number of people heading toward the great city of Pluzan and wonders what the hell is happening there. Upon reaching the entrance, Jaewoo celebrates that he has finally arrived, and as soon as he sees a crowd of people in line and a guy shouting that the estimated waiting time was 3 hours, Jaewoo thinks there's no way he's waiting in line for 3 hours, until he turns around startled by another guy shouting, welcoming everyone to the city. Jaewoo comments that the place is exactly as he remembers, and, observing some people, thinks that Pluzan is a city where many different races live together, and that the great they are referring to is the demon king Kubalt, since he knows Kubalt played an important role in the unification of cultures through his vast knowledge and eloquence, and that he is also considered the main pro-human demon king after Roland. Furthermore, he is an important figure who will help with his case, and, therefore, he knows he needs to meet him no matter what, until he hears someone calling him and turns to see. It's a goblin, who quickly comments that the MC possesses a remarkable aura. Jaewoo immediately wants to know if the goblin knows him. He replies no, but says that the aura of the MC is too strong to be ignored. Jaewoo opens his system and wonders if this could be because of his great leader's dignity skill. The goblin wants to know if it's the MC's first time in Pluzan. While observing his skill in the system, he sees that it increases charisma and divine presence as his proficiency rises. Then he thinks that this is not bad and could be useful in the future. Jaewoo tells the goblin that he is there to see Kubalt. He is amazed and comments that this was already expected of someone as remarkable as the MC, and that it feels almost as if two great leaders were together. Then he turns and says that he also has business with Kubalt and asks the MC to follow him. After arriving at Kubalt's castle, they head to the reception hall. The goblin asks the MC to wait there and that tea will be served soon. Jaewoo sees in his system that his skill has increased and that people are starting to recognize his charisma, and he wonders if only now he reached level 1 and how the goblin recognized him. But while stretching, he thinks that this is not important at the moment. Jaewoo looks to the side and sees a sculpture of Kubalt and thinks that he is still a narcissist as always, since the artwork was modeled after himself, until he gets startled by hearing the goblin saying that his tea has arrived. Then he gives an awkward laugh and apologizes for scaring the MC. Jaewoo asks the goblin to announce himself next time. The goblin also comments that, as the MC can see, he is a monster. Jaewoo, still intrigued, changes the subject and wants to know what brings the goblin there. He says he is there to register his marriage with Kubalt, and, while starting to tremble, the goblin emphasizes that his relationship is very affectionate. Jaewoo thinks that once again he is seeing this. Then he remembers earlier, while he was in the city and everyone else called Kubalt the Great, but only the goblin there referred to Kubalt as he. Therefore, he thinks it is better to test him. And as soon as he notices a ring on the goblin's finger, he comments that it must be a wedding ring. The goblin comments that apparently the MC recognized him and that this was already expected, but says he invested 10 years of his salary in the ring. Jaewoo asks if he is really serious, but comments that his acting is quite impressive, saying this while calling the goblin Kubalt. The goblin looks at his ring and wants to know what the MC means by that. Thus, Jaewoo wants to know if the ring is not the ruby ring that Kubalt keeps, and that, besides that, him saying he seems remarkable when he is relatively unknown was also suspicious. And above all, nobody calls themselves the Great. The goblin immediately begins to transform and says that, as he read in the information he obtained, the instincts of the MC are truly sharp. Then, after revealing his true form, Kubalt comments that the MC is right and that he is the ruler of the city of Pluzan. This is the King of Shadows, the Demon King Kubalt, who as soon as he sits down, wants to know if the MC is probably there to see him regarding the case involving Valpurgis. Jaewoo replies that yes, and emphasizes that he thought he might have a lead or some useful information. Kubalt places the teacup on the table and says that he knows what the MC wants to know, but that there is a condition. Jaewoo already had in mind that he imagined Kubalt would say that, so he wants to know what condition that would be. But Jaewoo has in mind that his obsession with knowledge is quite obvious, even in previous games. And he also knows that he is the infamous pervert who would pay to know the Emperor's underwear color in the end. Jaewoo still reflects that he knows all the important information from future war goals to real estate speculation, and, with a bizarre look, thinks that the Demon King can say anything because he already knows everything. Kubalt gives a slight smile and then asks the MC to just be his friend. Hardly hearing what the Demon King said, the MC slams the table in agreement until, as soon as he realizes the Demon King's request, he becomes confused and asks him to be clearer. Kubalt says that the MC may not know this, but that he is about to become the center of attention, from the subjugation of Hexax to his relationship with the extremely strict paladin. Jaewoo begins to tremble thinking of the scene and questions if they are really that close. Kubalt continues saying that connecting with someone like the MC would be very profitable. Jaewoo wants to know how he will show that they are friends. The Demon King throws a ring to him and asks him to accept it, and as soon as the MC takes it, Kubalt comments that, as he can see, it is a communication ring, and that it is just something for them to call each other when they are bored. Jaewoo is intrigued and wonders what Kubalt must be plotting, as he seems like the type of person who gives a lecture about someone while smiling and saying, "You should have studied more," and he knows he cannot read him at all. Kubalt also says that as a symbol of their friendship, he will reveal information that he thinks the MC might want to know. Then he snaps his fingers and comments that he already knows what he will say. Jaewoo wants to know what it is. Kubalt says that the clue is in the Duke of Saxon's capital in Dresden. After some time, already in Dresden, the capital of the electorate of Saxon, the MC approaches the gate where there are guards on duty who quickly want to know who the boy is. Jaewoo smiles and activates his skill, and the soldiers immediately fall to the ground. Jaewoo makes it clear that they are not to try to block his way. Then he enters the city, and wherever he goes, as soon as people see the MC, they begin to fall to the ground, and others run away. Jaewoo, with his skill active, just keeps asking people to bow or get out of his way. After reaching the Velia Merchants Guild, a woman runs and shouts, asking a guy what the overwhelming presence approaching the guild is. The guy doesn't understand, and the woman begins to tremble and says that the presence is almost there. As soon as the MC approaches her, she runs away, asking him not to come any closer. Jaewoo goes to the guild leader, who quickly wants to know how someone like him is there. The MC deactivates his skill and with a sinister look tells the merchant guild leader that he is there to make a deal. That said, Jaewoo begins to remember the conversation he had with Kubalt when he asked if the Demon King was really referring to Dresden. He replied yes, and informed him that the Velia Merchant Guild and the Ritter Knight family of this place are bound by a huge debt and that they are in a debtor and creditor relationship. The MC was quite surprised to hear this and thought that he really had no knowledge of such information, and he also knew that this was already expected of Kubalt, since he was the one who dominated him in the war of information through countless past encounters, as his intelligence network stretched across the entire continent, and it is precisely because of this that Kubalt is called the King of Shadows. Kubalt also commented that, judging by the look of the MC, he seemed satisfied with the information he gave, but stressed that there was one more thing. The MC, surprised, wanted to know if there was really something more to learn. Back to the present, the merchant guild leader takes the MC to a room where there is a sick person lying down. He then says that it is his daughter Marin, and that she was an extraordinary adventurer, but emphasizes that although she is lying in bed like this now, not long ago she was a bright and healthy child. But one day, she suddenly began to waste away, and eventually even lost the strength to lift a spoon. And that was how they ended up in their current situation. He then says that they summoned all the renowned doctors of the continent, but all said they could do nothing. Then he falls to his knees and, while crying, makes it clear that if this continues, he thinks he may lose his daughter forever. Until suddenly, the merchant guild leader stands up and, while shouting that there must be some way to save his daughter, spits everything in the MC's face. He then eloquently begs the MC to help him save his daughter and bring her smile back. Jae-woo places his hand on the guild leader's face and comments that first, he should forget all that extraordinary adventurer nonsense and just call him Jae-woo. And while wiping off the guild leader's spit, he emphasizes that this is precisely why he is there to make a deal. After cleaning himself, Jae-woo places his hand on Marin's forehead and says that even to the naked eye, it is clear that the guild leader's daughter's condition is critical. He then explains that her muscle mass is significantly reduced and her low fever does not subside. He makes it clear that this cannot be treated with ordinary medicine. However, he emphasizes that even so, there is a way to cure Marin's illness. The merchant guild leader is very surprised and, while crying with joy at knowing something can be done to save his daughter, shouts for the MC to tell him. Thus, Jae-woo says that they will need the elixir of Gross Glockner. Marin's father begins to tremble and soon collapses to the ground, commenting that the MC is then saying that it is practically impossible to save her. Jae-woo replies yes, because of the type of place where Gross Glockner is, and that in this world, it is just another way of saying it is impossible. The merchant guild leader has in mind that the canyon of the demonic dragon Gross Glockner is a huge gorge famous for its breathtaking scenery, located in the southeastern part of the empire, being the territory of the demonic dragon Schwarze Teufel. He also knows that although few ancient dragons remain on the continent, the power of Schwarze Teufel is immeasurable, and that not even the demon kings can easily deal with him, and that the canyon he rules is infested with countless demonic beasts. As he begins to despair, the merchant guild leader also thinks that, simply put, it is a deadly place for both humans and demons, being a hopeless challenge for any ordinary person. However, Jae-woo smiles, places his hand on the leader's shoulder, and asks him not to worry, saying that he will go there to help him. The guild leader is very impressed with what the MC has just said. Then Jae-woo activates his Mephistopheles acting skill, and with it, he can deceive and mock his opponents. The leader begins to shout, saying that if someone has to go, it has to be himself. But Jae-woo makes it clear that what the leader's daughter needs at the moment is not an elixir, but the heartfelt love of her own father. The leader immediately begins to cry even more upon seeing the concern of the MC. While the leader wants to know what he can do to help, Jae-woo smiles and soon begins to put on an act saying that it is not complicated, since he heard that the Ritter family has a huge debt with the Valia Merchandise Guild. Then he wants to know if he could assume that debt. The leader is stunned by this request, but Jae-woo quickly grabs him and makes it clear that it will be for the sake of his only daughter. The leader looks at his daughter in such a condition and soon begins to remember her when she was so happy. Then, seeing no way out, he replies that fine, he will accept the MC's deal. Thus, Jae-woo goes to the canyon and, looking around, comments that the night is perfect for a climb. He also sees that the view is absolutely spectacular. He picks a flower and comments that it is quite large. Then, he shows it to Philly and asks if he knows what it is. The horse gives the flower a good sniff, while the MC says that it is a precious medicinal herb that only grows there. Then, he asks Philly to listen carefully to what he is about to say. Thus, he explains that the place there, thanks to its excellent guards, no evil human or demon can enter. With that, the system informs that the horse's attributes have drastically increased. Jae-woo continues saying that even the wild grass throughout the canyon is infused with the demonic dragon's mana, and that outside that place it is considered a rare medicine. And as soon as he picks up some soil from the ground, he shouts, saying that, in other words, even a handful of soil from there is pure treasure. With that, he runs back and forth talking about medicinal herbs here and there, and that every bit of soil is worth gold, and that he knows not only can he save the merchant guild leader's daughter, but he can also make money. And as soon as he eats some of the grass, he comments that even it tastes great, until suddenly someone throws a stone at his head, making him turn around furiously, wanting to know who the hell did that. And soon he sees a goblin asking the human to get out of there. Jae-woo is startled, since he sees several goblins in front of him, very angry, warning that the land belongs to them. However, after a while, I don't know what the MC did to them, but they are all cultivating the soil very sadly, while Jae-woo is sitting drinking very relaxed, until he sees one of the goblins do something that the MC quickly notices. Then he shouts, saying that he had not told them to dig directly. Thus, he shows an example and asks them to do it neatly and cleanly and not to damage the roots when pulling them out. And while the goblins are afraid of him, Jae-woo still makes it clear that if they continue to do such sloppy work as they are doing, he will push them all back into their graves again. Then, he shouts loudly if they are listening well. Let's rewind to an earlier moment when the goblins had surrounded the MC and he was a little scared. And without thinking twice, the goblins quickly rushed at him. Jae-woo activated his blood tear absorption skill, brutally sucking the blood of the creatures coming his way. After doing this, he breathes in relief and, seeing the eliminated bodies of the goblins, calls them idiots and questions why the hell they bothered him. With that, the system warns that the proficiency of the MC's blood tear absorption skill has increased. Then Jae-woo orders the corpses to stand up immediately, thus creating a legion of summoned goblins. Jae-woo enjoys this very much and, while clapping, comments that it is truly excellent. Back to the present, Jae-woo, while drinking, wants to know again why they attacked him since they had no chance of winning. So he asks if Kururak does not agree. He replies that indeed yes, and explains that they failed to recognize the true strength of His Majesty. Kururak also emphasizes that they, the useless ones, thank the MC for sparing them and taking them in. Jae-woo asks him to forget that because he should be the one thanking, since they are working hard, and that anyway he wants to know if besides them, hobgoblins, what else lives there in the canyon. Kururak says that in the canyon, besides them hobgoblins, there are countless other monsters, being werewolves, worms, giant centipedes, and many ogres. Jae-woo comments that apparently Kururak memorized everything and that he knew keeping him by his side was the right choice, until he hears his communication ring making a noise, and as soon as he answers, Kubalt wants to know if he has already forgotten about the communication ring he received. Jae-woo comments that he had almost forgotten. Kubalt wants to know if the MC is in Gross Glockner. Jae-woo thinks that the Demon King is sharp as always, so he replies that the weather is pleasant, along with the fresh breeze and the beautiful moon. Kubalt comments that he understands and says that his city of Pluzen is also lively, preparing for the next festival, and that he thinks if the MC has time, he should visit. Jae-woo replies that if time allows, he will stop by. The Demon King comments that he heard Valpurgis recently visited Ritter. Jae-woo wants to know what he means and how things went. Kubalt says that it was just as the MC thought. They demanded an extraordinary settlement fee and also threatened to seize the goods that would be traded with Roland, and that, in short, it was all unilateral and unfair. Jae-woo calls them bastards and comments that they are starting to cross the line. Kubalt emphasizes that the MC can bet this is only the beginning. Jae-woo asks the Demon King to tell Valpurgis to stop acting in agreement despite accepting the terms, and that he should buy as much time as possible. Kubalt replies that fine, he can do that. After all, that is the kind of relationship the MC and he have. Jae-woo makes it clear that when he returns, he will ensure Kubalt is well rewarded. He laughs and replies that he looks forward to it. Kubalt also emphasizes that he knows Gross Glockner is a gold mine. Jae-woo does not like hearing that much, but comments that the Demon King can wait for something nice. Kubalt comments that anyway, he thinks it seems the MC is busy with all the noise in the background and that he will leave him alone. Jae-woo gets confused and asks what he means, but soon notices that the Demon King ended the communication. Then he lies down and thinks that he is tolerating him for the sake of Valpurgis. Then Jae-woo asks Kururak about the noise. He is afraid to say, but tells him that something happened. Jae-woo looks to the side to see what it is, and soon realizes he is surrounded by several ogres. He quickly stands up and tells the hobgoblin to retreat, who in turn is frightened and comments that he must at least protect his master. However, Jae-woo punches him and makes it clear that he already told him once to retreat. Then he turns, and seeing the other hobgoblins fallen on the ground, thinks they are pathetic since they were already knocked out. Jae-woo has in mind that at his current skill level with blood tear absorption, the goblins do not stand a chance, but the system warns that since the ogres are of a higher level, they are resisting the blood tear absorption skill. Thus, Jae-woo concludes that summoning undead will not help him at all, as they would only end up like the hobgoblins. Then he activates his item and thinks that this has worked very well before, and as soon as he prepares, he knows it is time to stretch a little, As he raises his hand, energy begins to be channeled. Jaiwoo enjoys this since he has in mind that it is one of the 12 legendary swords of the Empire, the unbreakable treasure of the Pulse House. With that, he equips his powerful sword, which is Rublanya. The system informs that Rublanya is an S-rank sword, a heritage passed down in the Pulse House for 200 years, and that it enhances the mastery of the exclusive sword art of the Pulse House, being the Shadow Moon sword art. The ogres quickly notice the energy emanating from the sword. Jaiwoo immediately realizes that they recognize the sword, so he says that it is the exclusive sword of the Shadow Moon sword art. Then he thinks that the fool Philip simply locked it in storage and chose some flashy sword instead. Next, the MC wastes no time and uses the zero form of the Shadow Moon sword art, Black Moon, and begins attacking the ogres immediately. They keep being attacked and are confused because they cannot see anything. Jaiwoo keeps moving quickly among them, and with this skill, the ogres cannot predict his movements. And, in a matter of seconds, Jaiwoo manages to strike several at once, until he lands on the head of one of them, and, as soon as it notices, Jaiwoo jumps, delivers his attack, and advances to the next, which he also, without much difficulty, manages to annihilate. Kururak runs to his master, calling out to him. Jaiwoo looks back and, very pleased, thinks that the technique worked well, and that he even thought he was nervous since it had been a long time since he used such a technique. Kururak begins to clap and say that his master is truly amazing. Jaiwoo starts to feel embarrassed and says it was nothing, and while he begins to boast that at the moment he can only keep the technique active for 30 seconds, but at his peak he could maintain it for 10 whole minutes, he ends up not noticing someone behind him, and as soon as he hears someone asking if the chaotic scene there was his doing, he quickly turns around very startled. The being quickly moves closer to the MC, wanting to know if it was really him who did all that. Jaiwoo jumps back, questioning when the being appeared. The MC still tries to use his technique again, but the mysterious being is faster and, with its huge claw, ends up grabbing the MC's neck with full force. And with an overwhelming presence, it makes it clear that if the MC tries to move, it will break his neck. Right after, she lands a blow on the MC that throws him far away, and as soon as he crashes into a tree, the system warns that he took a heavy hit and his HP was reduced to 10%. Jaiwoo becomes worried, wondering if the system is mocking him. The creature approaches the MC saying strange and confusing words, and Jaiwoo shouts, telling her that she must declare her identity first, as he has no idea who the hell she might be. She keeps saying nonsensical things, but this time mentions Gross Glockner, which makes the MC even more confused as he tries to understand what she is saying. Then he starts observing her more closely and wonders if she could be the demon dragon Gross Glockner, since in his last playthrough, it was a giant dragon the entire time, so he questions what is happening this time. She quickly moves near the MC, which makes him a little scared. Then she activates a skill and comments that she can feel his energy is from another dimension, while the MC is intrigued, wondering why the self-proclaimed lizard is breaking the fourth wall. Kururak steps in front screaming that he will protect his master, but the dragon starts releasing power in her hand and tells the hobgoblin she does not want dialogue and calls him a filthy arrogant. And as soon as she prepares to strike her attack, the MC screams in fear, asking her to wait a little. She makes it clear that question and answer are completely useless, says this, and launches her attack. But Jaiwoo shouts that if he dies there, she will die too. With that, she halts her attack at the last second. Jaiwoo breaks into a cold sweat, seeing her claws right in front of his face, and she, in turn, is left not understanding what is happening. Then she asks the human to explain, and he replies that it is exactly what it looks like, thus explaining that sometimes he has prophetic dreams, and that he saw this in one of them, in which she, a demon dragon, dies a miserable death. She, still speaking strangely, wants to know if in case the MC dies, she will too. He replies yes, and wants to know if she does not believe it, because if she does not believe it, she can look into his memories. She becomes thoughtful, and as soon as she raises her hand, the MC gets scared waiting to be attacked. She takes a deep breath and replies that fine. However, she releases her terrible power and makes it clear that if it is a lie, he will die a brutal death. Very awkwardly, he replies that fine. Thus, something begins to happen in the dragon woman's hand, and then her claws and her dragon hand start to look as if they were a human hand. Then, while the MC focuses, she places her hand on his head and also makes it clear that if he dares to move his head, she will eliminate him. Seeing no way out, he replies that fine. With that, she begins to see Jaewoo's memories and ends up being very surprised. She starts going deeper and deeper into the MC's memories until she stops and comments that it almost looks like human overload, but Jaewoo replies it is nothing important. However, she wants to go even deeper to see what she needs to see. The MC wants to know why and comments that it is not necessary, but ends up showing one of his memories and makes it clear that it will serve. She becomes intrigued and comments that it is suspicious and inappropriate, but tells the MC that it is not visible as it is blurred until she becomes surprised upon seeing a dragon completely eliminated. She then wants to know if it is really real, but the MC replies that it is enough and expels her from his memory. After the communication ends, Jaewoo is left panting. Jaewoo has in mind that it was close, because if she had gone further, he thinks she would have seen his memories of other playthroughs. She becomes incredulous and comments that her corpse was confirmed, but wants to know who eliminated her, until she realizes something and thanks the MC, but emphasizes that as a reward he will not die, and that he should get out of there. He replies that he does not like that, but she turns away confused. Thus, Jaewoo stands up and shouts, calling her to make a deal instead, and with that, he calls her Shubi. Then he shouts, explaining that her name is too long, and that from now on, she will be called only Shubi. She becomes furious and says that he is being very arrogant. Meanwhile, Kururak does not understand anything. Jaewoo pounds his chest and shouts, asking Shubi to listen carefully. She is astonished and makes it clear that she, Shubi, refuses because she is over 3,000 years old. Jaewoo keeps trying to argue with her, explaining that this is how Generation Z speaks now and that she should accept it. She does not understand about this Generation Z thing and says it is just nonsense. Then the system informs the MC about his new mission, which is to gain the trust of the dragon, and that due to the mission update, the game's difficulty has slightly increased. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, a snake is crawling through the place until someone stomps hard on it, and this guy who just stepped on the snake shouts that he is the master of the abyss deeper than darkness, king of chaos and disorder, that his name is none other than the great demon king Odgash. Then, while striking a pose thinking he is the greatest, a serpent man calls him and says they are almost there. Odgash turns furious and makes it clear to the serpent man that he was in the middle of his entrance speech. He becomes frightened and immediately asks his lord to forgive him for disturbing him. However, Odgash sits down and asks him to forget it since his mood has already been ruined, until someone approaches saying that they are his subordinates and asks him to forgive them. Odgash is surprised to see that such a person ended up coming. Then he greets his daughter, Kallione, who in turn greets her lord. Odgash comments that he had promised that when the journey they are on ended successfully, he would grant one of her dearest wishes. Kallione thanks her father for keeping such a promise. He laughs and emphasizes that she is his beloved daughter and that something like this is natural. Then he asks all his servants to listen carefully. Thus, he makes it clear that for the moment, they will march to Grossglockner, guarded by the demon dragon, and that the beasts under its control are nothing special, but emphasizes that the demon dragon itself will not be easy to deal with. Odgash becomes serious and emphasizes that no one needs to be afraid. Then he explains that all they must do is devour everything in sight and cruelly trample everything alive under their feet, and that as for the Black Devil, he makes it clear that it belongs to him. This is Odgash, the demon king of greed, and his ranking is 3rd place. Then he unleashes his terrible power and calls his children to set out for battle. Meanwhile, in the forest, the MC realizes that another new night has dawned and that, although they were disturbed by strange beasts and a dragon with confusing language, he knows that the mission is to collect as many valuable herbs as possible to bring back to Dresden. Therefore, he shouts for all his summons to act as quickly as possible. They soon get excited and Jaewoo orders them to take their positions. Then he sits and takes a deep breath, and Kururak brings him a mandrake cocktail. Jaewoo thanks him and asks the butler to bring one for Philly as well. While drinking his beverage, the MC thinks that if he had encountered a dragon suddenly in a place like that without having memories of his previous life, he would certainly be dead. But he wonders why this time everything is so strange, since he remembers Philip's betrayal and the sudden change in the dragon's design. But at least Valpurgis's face was quite beautiful. Then he remembers something, stretches his hand forward, and asks for the main scenario to open. Thus, several screens appear in front of the MC, and, seeing something on one of those screens, he is very surprised, thinking that it is exactly as expected, because it was not just this time and that. Of everything that happened so far, nothing compares to the previous execution, because everything is completely new. He keeps in mind that he, Jawu, the best guardian of humanity, #1 ranking, remembers almost all the maps of Gross Glockner, even every stone, since he knows it makes no sense to be confused about the places of the dragon's descent, and therefore, he thinks that something is wrong. Then he decides to organize all this better, and starts with the Battle of Harfam between the Elector of Steel and the demon Petsamut, followed by the betrayal of Friedrich, the Elector of Steel's helper, and then the crisis in the Great Convent of Valpurgis. Then he realizes that the main scenarios are all the same, but the smaller events within them are different. Therefore, he considers that maybe the world he is in is not just a new world, but he really wants to know why it is so different, and if by any chance he is missing something. Until one of his summons gets hurt, and the MC quickly wants to know what happened. The hobgoblin who got hurt tells his master that it was nothing, that he just got a little injured while collecting herbs. Jawu asks him to be careful, because he knows what can happen if the roots are scratched. While the hobgoblins comment among themselves that they will have to be more careful, the MC keeps in mind that, in any case, if he takes his eyes off even for a moment, problems always happen. The other hobgoblin asks his brother if he is really okay. He answers yes, and asks him not to worry. Jawu realizes that the two are brothers, and reflects that, thinking about it, Charlotte also had a younger sister, something he did not know in his previous life, until he gets scared by something, as he remembers the time when Charlotte's little sister went to the tavern and got angry. He also remembers everyone around the table laughing, then the High Abbess and Valpurgis. And looking at his drink, he sees some ants passing by and concludes that since his position changed, his perspective was also altered, because he keeps in mind that in the previous world, his build was of Elector of Steel and the Emperor of the Empire, and a hero who saved the world. He also knows that he always started the worlds with extraordinary abilities and high attributes, but he thinks about the current moment because nothing stands out, just a normal and plebeian character. And all he has are memories of countless plays he had, being totally lamentable compared to his other lives. But he knows that because of this, he could see the expressions of the people around him and the small connections he had despised. Not to mention that he was finally able to see the face of the holy knight Valpurgis. Jawu reflects that starting as a commoner finally made all this possible, and that even in the situation he is in his previous journey, he would have only paid Valpurgis's debt and ended everything, besides not knowing the circumstances until now. Then he realizes something and thinks he understood, and that now the sudden proposal of the goddess Aquila that day makes sense, and that it is a piece of the puzzle that may reveal the true ending that no one else found, besides that mysterious space she created. Therefore, while taking his mandrake drink, he reflects on the plebeian class that was suddenly unlocked, then thinks of the goddess, and considers that everything was part of her game. Jawu gets nervous and concludes that it was all part of a tutorial he was going through. At that moment, Kururak interrupts the MC and shouts warning that the dragon is running toward him. He barely finishes saying this when a strong wind throws everything away. It is Shubi, who furiously comments that it was exactly as the MC had said. Jawu stretches and thanks the goddess Aquila for the expected result. The MC gives Shubi a slight wink, and, while she is confused, Jawu says that this made him realize once again that the game he is playing really is amazing. Then he shouts, calling everyone to move forward, then thinks of Aquila and that he finally understood how to fully enjoy the world he is in, because now he will chew, savor, and properly appreciate it. Therefore, he gets excited again, raises his arm and shouts that a new strategy is about to begin. While laughing like a madman, Shubi and Kururak are left not understanding anything. Elsewhere, the Demon King Odgash is very excited with his huge axe, destroying everything in front of him. The other demons are thrilled with their master, until Kalyon looks up and tells her father that apparently something is approaching. He wants to know if it could be the demon dragon. It is the MC and the hobgoblin who crashed to the ground. Odgash realizes that it is just a human and a useless hobgoblin, but Kalyon emphasizes that more are still coming. Soon, an explosion happens right in front of them, and they wait for the dust to settle. As soon as it does, Shubi, very furious, demands that everyone leave her territory immediately. Odgash, upon realizing who it is, gets very excited and shouts, saying that it has been a while since he last saw the demon dragon and that he is there with a proposal. Then he asks her to just listen, because he thinks she will find the proposal very tempting. Shubi replies that she does not want to listen. Jaewoo throws something in her direction and quietly comments that they will begin. Shubi replies that she understood, spreads her huge wings, and with a stunning look, says that they will begin. Odgash comments that he understood and that apparently she wants to talk to him alone. Therefore, they both fly away from there, and the MC just watches them go into the distance. Then he laughs and thinks that he expected the invasion of the demon Odgash, but knows that this is much earlier than last time, and that he could simply ignore him, but that Shubi will be useful later. After reflecting on this, Jaewoo laughs and comments that he is quite honored to be in front of the beauty of the continent, Lady Kalyon. She begins to remove her battle helmet, and as soon as she takes it off, all the demons quickly go to her. Jaewoo is surprised by this and thinks about her, in which, depending on the player's choices, she is the riskiest character, capable of becoming an ally or enemy, besides being stronger than the demon Pezamut, and that they do not call her the Ice Queen for nothing. For this reason, he knows he needs to recruit her for his future strategy. Then he thinks of Valpurgis, and that she just needs to wait a little longer, because he will solve all this quickly and return to her. With this in mind, he tells Kalyon that she is even more beautiful in person. However, as soon as he finishes saying this, he has a weapon pointed at his neck. The demon nun stares at the MC. He knocks on the spear, apologizes, but makes it clear that he would like to speak with her princess. So he wants to know if a simple lackey could step aside. The nun gets furious and tries to attack the MC. Kururak gets furious, steps in front of the MC, and makes it clear to the creature that she is smaller than earwax. Then he makes it clear that if she wants to hurt his master, she will have to kill him first. Jaewoo laughs and comments to Kururak that apparently he has evolved a lot, since last time he ran away when they faced the demon dragon. The hobgoblin gets embarrassed and apologizes for the last time. Therefore, Jaewoo turns and wants to know if the person behind heard, because apparently the hobgoblin is braver than her. At that moment, a whip lashes past Kururak and binds the demon nun. From afar, the person who used the whip just laughs and says the situation is perfect. It is the newest summon of the MC, Hejax, who apparently seems quite excited, because right after she pulls her whip, and the demon nun who is trapped is dragged along. Piffenheim takes the chance and delivers several attacks with his sword on the creature, then makes it clear that he will cut down anyone who threatens his master without any mercy. Kalyon just watches and wonders if Piffenheim is a vampire. Jaewoo laughs, and in front of all his summons and looking at Kalyon's soldiers, comments that now the numbers match, and that now he wants to know how she feels. She begins to equip her battle helmet, and comments that indeed this is the source of his confidence. However, she raises her huge sword and makes it clear that they are the legion of the army of the demon Lord Odgash. And with her power overflowing through her entire body, she shouts for all her troops to pay attention, then orders them to destroy everything and leave nothing behind. The creatures shout that they will obey Lady Kalyon. The summons of the MC shout that they will protect the MC. Both Jaewoo and Kalyon prepare and immediately rush at each other, crossing their swords. The MC is thrown back and she comments that it is quite impressive, as she would not have imagined that he could block her necromancy and her attack as well, and that apparently she thinks the MC really surpasses Pizamut. Jaewoo's arm trembles from the impact of the attack, and he comments that receiving so many compliments from a princess is an honor, but makes it clear that calling Odgash Demon Lord makes it seem like if her father knew, he would cry tears of blood. He then emphasizes that she is the only daughter of the former Level 1 Aran Demon Lord, Kaimars, being Lady Kalyon Rominia Kaimars. She wants to know how much he knows. Jae-woo laughs and says that all of this is absolutely ridiculous. Caleone wants to know why he is laughing, and the MC wants to know how he could not laugh, because being so ignorant and following the murderer of her own father is insane. Caleone becomes furious and wants to know who killed whom. Then she thinks that her father was the person she respected the most in the world, and that she could feel the warmth in his gaze whenever he looked at her, which made her feel at peace and gave the other demons strength to believe in themselves. She knew that her father filled her with pride and that he was her own happiness. However, one day he was killed by Gorokalgam and Kaltus. At the time, Odgash had held her while the other demons shouted that from that moment on the #1 demon lord would be them. And amidst that uproar, Odgash made it clear to her that he hated all those demons as much as she did, and that Lord Kymars was not only a true master, but also his longtime friend. And, while crying, he emphasized that at that moment, it was time to endure the pain, and that when the time came, he would swear to help her and eliminate all those involved in her father's death. Therefore, Caleone tells the MC that this is what Odgash had said, then tells him to shut up, and wants to know how he dares to insult her master. Jae-woo says that apparently she really got herself into a complicated situation, then throws a magic sphere and asks her to take a look first at what he will show. The sphere reaches her feet, and she is surprised trying to understand what it is. Meanwhile, Odgash is laughing and commenting with the demon dragon that she is romantic in a certain way, because frankly, he is touched to be there alone with her. Shubi replies no, and that he and the others killed Kymars, but wants to know why he saved Caleone, the daughter of Kymars. Odgash wants to know if the demon dragon thinks it was he who killed Kymars, because he thinks this is all nonsense, then makes it clear that the ones who eliminated Kymars were Gorokalgam and Kaltus. Shubi replies that these are just unfounded excuses, and that she knows they were all traitors. Odgash gets embarrassed and comments that apparently the demon dragon is quite persistent. Therefore, he admits that she is right and explains that there is no way those idiots could have eliminated Kymars. While saying such words, Shubi just stared at him intently with her magic eye, and where the sphere that the MC had thrown near Caleone was, a live broadcast was shown, with him telling the whole truth and saying that he was the one who killed Kymars. Then, Odgash said that when the other demons found out that he knew Kymars' only weakness, they practically drooled at the chance. Caleone is very shocked and says that she cannot believe what she is seeing, drops her sword on the ground, and, seeing Odgash saying such words, again says that it cannot be true, because she knows that he was her father's most trusted follower and was even like a sworn brother. Jae-woo thinks that everything is going as planned, because he thinks she is falling. Therefore, he remembers, before, while he was with Shubi and Kururak, when he wanted to know if Shubi had a magical image projector in the nest. She answered yes, and with that, the MC asked her to use it to broadcast. Then he explained that he would expose the shocking truth of Kymars' death, and that Shubi was to make Odgash confess himself. After telling about this, he made it clear that this was the outline of the operation. Shubi could not believe that this was all the humans' plan. After reflecting on this, he sees Caleone collapsing on the ground, then thinks that Shubi did a great job, and that thanks to her, half the plan is already a success. After the broadcast ends, Jae-woo knows he will need to take care of the rest. Caleone begins to cry and questions if until now it was all just entertainment. Then she thinks that the two had always been so close. At that moment, Hejax arrives telling the MC that the cleanup is complete. He thanks her and orders that they hold position as ordered. She replies yes, while the demons are all tied up. Jae-woo takes a deep breath and looking at Caleone desolate on the ground, comments that he would not have thought she would obey Odgash for 50 years without even knowing who the real enemy was. So he thinks her loyalty is quite impressive. She just keeps crying, but Jae-woo wants to know if she will continue standing there just lamenting. Then he goes to her and asks if she will not want revenge, because from that moment on, he will teach her the right of the true name of Kymars, and that what she does with it is up to her. She thinks that it has been a long time since she has heard that. A spell that borrows the vast power of the cosmos, strong enough to wound even the archdemon, and that this spell was what made her father the #1 demon lord. Therefore, she wants to know how a stranger like the MC would know this, because only her father knew these details. Jae-woo thinks that he studied everything cover to cover thanks to the strategy guide, since he keeps in mind that this means he knows it inside and out, both the overwhelming power of the right of the true name and its single fatal weakness. But he knows that for now, he will tell her a convenient story, so he reveals that he read the chronicles of the 7 demon wars, and that in them, methods to resist the archdemon are explained, and that among them was the right of the true name of Kaimars. She says that she understands, and that it is no wonder that the MC seems strange. Jae-woo is pleased and thinks that the cheat code for all uses is the Chronicles of the 7 Demon Wars. However, Kallioni makes it clear to the MC that this will not help him, because Odgash is immortal. She then says that before becoming her father's subordinate, he suffered a direct hit from that spell, but that obviously he was incapacitated for a while. And since her father could not finish him, how could he finish him now? Jae-woo says that she is completely mistaken, then asks her to listen carefully. Therefore, he explains that the henchmen who protected her have already been defeated by his army of vampires, and that no matter how strong she is, she will not be able to face so many alone. Then the MC crouches down and asks her again to listen carefully, then says that he is offering to become her new ally. Having said that, he wants to know what she will do, or if she will die there at that exact moment. Kallioni starts crying even more, and remembers when she was a child, and was telling her father that when she grew up, she would want to be a great demon lady like him. Her father was surprised to hear that, and made it clear to his daughter that she would have to become even stronger than him. Kallioni wanted to know if her father thought she would be able to. He picked her up and, while playing with her in the air, replied that he always believed in her, and that in the end, she was none other than the daughter of Kaimars. After remembering this, she asked the MC if she can really kill Odgash. Jae-woo, seeing her cry a lot, wants to know why she is still crying. However, Piffenheim asks his master to stop a little and be more sensible with a lady. Jae-woo gets nervous and wants to know what he thinks he should do. Then he shouts, asking her to stop crying, because she is Odgash's operations captain. She keeps crying, and says that he is the one who should be the captain. Piffenheim calls for his master and asks him to remember that in demon years, she is still just a child. Kururak, meanwhile, is confused, not understanding anything that is happening there. Meanwhile, Odgash is all wounded from the battle against Shubi, but due to his power, he soon fully recovers, and, facing the demon dragon, comments that he is disappointed with her. Shubi smiles, and while showing him the middle finger, tells him to go to hell. Then they start exchanging blows in the air, and Odgash goes after Shubi and keeps shouting that he is very disappointed with the demon dragon because he thought she would gladly accept his offer. Shubi turns, prepares her attack, and unleashes a tremendous roar of fire that forces the demon Odgash to defend himself. After the attack ceases, Shubi sends Odgash to hell once again. However, a glow emerges from the dust, and an attack comes straight at the demon dragon. Odgash unleashes his monstrous power and, laughing, makes it clear that if that is what Shubi wants, there will be no other way. Thus, he leaps at her, prepares his attack, and as soon as he strikes, he slams the demon dragon to the ground. Shubi becomes angry and makes it clear that she will beat him to death. Then she begins to unleash her true power and transforms into her draconian form, releasing a powerful, shrill roar right in Odgash's face. The roar was so strong that, where the MC is, it was possible to feel the tremor. Jae-woo is frightened and wonders if it could be an earthquake. Kururak grabs his master and screams, asking him to protect him. Hejax laughs and finds the hobgoblin very cute, then comments that perhaps he will turn him into his pet. He, in turn, does not like it and yells back saying no. Piffenheim runs to the MC and tells him that Lady Shubi's mana is rising. Jae-woo comments that apparently it is, and thinks she might be breaking the polymorph. However, as soon as he says that, he sees the huge dragon in the distance. Piffenheim emphasizes that even so, he thinks someone like Lady Shubi should be able to resist. Jae-woo comments that apparently he really does not understand, then explains that the battles there in Grossglockner are a huge penalty for Shubi. The MC keeps thinking about something and soon calls for Kallioni. Thus, he makes it clear that her mission has become even more important, so he wants to know if she can handle it. She becomes thoughtful, But watching the battle between the demon dragon and the demon Adgash, she answers yes. Meanwhile, Shubi is attacking her opponent, and one of the attacks causes immense damage. However, the demon dragon notices something when looking back. Adgash managed to dodge and is about to strike his attack. With his power overflowing through his body, he laughs and says it is a contest of strength. Shubi prepares her attack again and releases a powerful dragon roar. Adgash counterattacks as well, and a huge explosion happens when the two attacks collide. Adgash is excited about the battle, but Shubi does not give up and intensifies her dragon breath even more. After the attack ends, Adgash is faced with a completely destroyed scenario and his body full of injuries. He laughs and comments that he cannot believe he is losing in a contest of strength. Shubi calls him arrogant. Then she makes it clear that the world is collapsing and that she will never cooperate with him. While his body is being restored due to his high regeneration, Adgash comments that then the dragon leaves him no choice. Then he channels his mighty power into his axe and throws it, but the attack goes in another direction. Shubi realizes where the demon is aiming, and it does not take long for a huge explosion to happen. Shubi crashes to the ground because she went toward the attack and stepped in front. Adgash starts laughing and comments that he is having a very pathetic view of the demon dragon. Then he shouts that he would never have imagined Shubi would lose in such a way. After the dust settles, Shubi returns to her normal form. Adgash slams the handle of his mighty axe into the ground with full force and says that he knew there was some reason for the demon dragon to be bound to the place they are, but unfortunately, he does not know what place it is. Shubi tries to get up, laughs, and showing her middle finger to Adgash, tells him to fuck off. He laughs and emphasizes that she is brave until the end. Then he raises his axe and says he will split her in two. She thinks that she has already done her part and that now it is her end. However, Jaewoo appears at the last moment and strikes Adgash. Then he makes it clear that now it is his turn. The demon is left confused, and Shubi, while lying on the ground, as soon as she sees that the MC has just arrived, feels happy and makes it clear that he is late. Jaewoo gets ready for battle, but when he turns and sees Shubi's condition, he starts laughing and comments that her face looks pathetic. Shubi gets angry and tells him to shut up, but then feels something and asks the MC never to let his guard down. At that moment, Adgash releases even more of his powerful power and, furious, calls the MC a leech and wants to know what happened to his Kallione. Jaewoo wants to know if he is talking about her, so he takes a deep breath and shouts for Kallione. Thus, a huge glow appears in the sky, and she appears with her power released and, with a sinister look, wants to know if Adgash has nothing to say. Adgash laughs and calls Kallione his daughter, saying that she has finally mastered the rite of the true name. And while he asks her to come closer and use such powerful magic to get rid of the annoyances there, the MC wants to know what he is trying to do. Then he asks Kallione if she is just going to let Adgash talk like that, and if she wants to be expelled on the first day because Adgash is the mortal enemy who killed her father. The demon is left not understanding anything and wants to know what the MC is saying. Then he laughs and comments that the human is talking nonsense, also stressing that he and Kaimars were drinking companions and that he would never kill his friend. However, Shubi shows everything that happened before, with him telling the truth. Thus, he smiles, begins to release even more of his power, and comments that now he understands that Shubi was just joking. Jaewoo shouts, wanting to know what Shubi is doing, because she should bind him before he goes crazy. She asks the MC not to rush things, then uses her power, which causes some roots to sprout from the ground and quickly bind the demon. Kallione seizes the chance and applies the magic circle of the rite of the true name on Adgash, who in turn shouts saying that he is having a lot of fun and tells the brats to fall inside. Kallione drives her sword into the ground, and her magic becomes even stronger, then shouts telling Adgash to just die already, then launches her powerful true right attack. Adgash takes the attack head-on without doing anything at all. The attack is so strong that it begins to destroy everything around the area of effect. After the attack ends, Kallione puts her hand on her sword and takes a deep breath, and as the dust begins to settle, Adgash is lying on the ground, and she wants to know if she has finally managed to defeat him. Then she remembers when she was a child and was having fun with her father and soon begins to cry. However, something happens, and Odgash appears right in front of Calione, with his mighty power released and comments that it was truly excellent. Calione is very frightened, unable to believe that he withstood the rite of the true name. At that moment, Jaewoo appears and unleashes several attacks on the demon. Odgash becomes furious, and while preparing his attack, calls the MC a damn human fly, but then feels his shoulder exactly where Jaewoo struck, and soon becomes frightened when he realizes that his wound is not regenerating. Jaewoo takes a piece of horn, holds it firmly, and lands a full attack on the demon's head, and shouts that to capture an immortal, you only need to use a part of his own body. Then, he drives the horn with full force into the demon's head. With that, the system informs that the MC defeated the third Lord Odgash, and the dropped items were the Scharfrichter, Odgash's corpse, horn, and cloak. The system also informs that the proficiency of the rank, skill Summon Undead, increased, promoting the summoned vampires to Daywalkers, and that the MC can now summon even more powerful undead. Jaewoo acquired the skills Infinite Vitality, Black Lightning, Rank S Opera Nova, and the Rank SS skill Phantasmagoric Steps. And finally, he obtained the title of Hero. After that, Shubi is healing Calione and saying that it is over and that she survived, but that her mana is minimal, but soon finishes and leaves saying that comrades are like that. Calione keeps thinking about it, but the MC soon calls her and asks if she is going to stay still. Calione is surprised, but soon becomes happy and thinks that she has found a place where she belongs. After returning, the MC immediately gives the medicine for Dresden to take. She comments to her father that it is very bitter. He replies that even so, she must drink it all. Then he says that the MC and his companions risked their lives to bring the medicine to her. Dresden becomes excited and wants to know if by drinking it all, her father will fulfill her wish. He replies yes, and that he will grant anything, but becomes frightened when he hears the MC wanting to know if everything he asked for was resolved. Then he runs to him and tries to close his mouth so he does not say anything else. Thus, a little embarrassed, he calls the MC to talk and discuss business where his daughter cannot hear. After going to a reserved room, Jaewoo wants to know if everything is done or not. The merchant says that in fact there is strong opposition from the lighters. Jaewoo wants to know why those debtors are making so much noise. The merchant takes a deep breath and replies that he thinks it is probably because of the Elector of Saxony. Then he remembers that each of them went to see him and commented that they were VIP clients who spent a lot of money there and therefore wanted to know if the leader of the merchant guild would still go ahead. The blonde one even tried, asking the guildmaster to help him once more, since the Balia guild and their guild are on friendly terms. Then he got closer to the merchant and asked him just to arrange a meeting with the Elector of Saxony for them. After learning this, Jaewoo wants to know if they are causing all this trouble because they are afraid that the merchant's connection with Saxony will disappear if the debt is paid. He replies yes. Jaewoo becomes angry and comments that it is very irritating, but thinks that it is no wonder that those lighter bastards are acting so recklessly, because he knows that if it had been a confrontation between only the Emperor and the House of Bayern, it would have been an even match. But he knows that if someone brings the Elector of Saxony into this, it is no wonder that Valpurgis cannot sleep. Then he wonders if there is any way, but hears the merchant calling him and asking if there is any other form of compensation besides transferring the debt title. Jaewoo slams the table hard and, laughing, wants to know if the master of the merchant guild is good at making threats. Thus, after that, in the Belia guild, the guildmaster is trembling all over looking at a document and, furious, wants to know what it is about, since they are saying that Saxony will eliminate them. Then he comments that they said that if they recognize the debt transfer, they would extend the payment period by 2 years. Then he wants to know if the merchant had no choice but to acknowledge the transfer to some stranger he had never heard of. His advisor comments that from their side there was nothing they could do. The master throws a jar with full force on the ground in his face and, furious, comments that he must go to the capital immediately and that even if he has to cling to the Emperor's back, he must resolve this matter by any means necessary and return. Meanwhile, Jaewoo is observing the notice from his system that the proficiency of the rank S skill of summoning undead has increased and that it will be promoting the summoned vampires to daywalkers. The MC is very pleased to know this and quickly decides to test it, asking Piffenheim to rise. He quickly appears and greets his master. Jaewoo tells him that he and the other vampires have now become true daywalkers, and that therefore he will be giving him a special mission. Piffenheim comments that it will be an honor to do so with pleasure. The MC takes a letter and explains that it is his will, and that Piffenheim must deliver it to a man named Reby Saltz. Then, as he hands over the letter, Jaewoo stresses that the vampire must carry it carefully because it cannot be torn. Having said that, he turns and tells his summon that he may go, until he hears someone wanting to know if the MC is already leaving. It is the leader of the Merchant Guild, who says that he has prepared what the MC had requested. He then says that he heard it is only used by some select nobles, a carriage made by the hands of a master craftsman, and that he managed to acquire it through an acquaintance at a client's company. Jaewoo thinks about this and comments that it seems to be beautiful. As soon as the carriage arrives, the merchant says that he also included the payment for the herbs and some travel funds, and that therefore the MC should have more than enough. However, a little curious, the guild leader wants to know why the MC plans to use such a luxurious item. Jaewoo says that he thinks he is going to use it to hit those bastard lighters on the head, but wants to know if the merchant is curious about how he is going to teach that to them. The merchant, in turn, imagines the scene and awkwardly replies that he is not curious. At that moment, the merchant's daughter appears. Jaewoo goes to her and emphasizes that she may be healthier, but stresses that she still needs to be careful for a while. A little embarrassed, she comments that she has something to tell him. Then she goes to the MC and gives him a kiss on the face, which leaves him very surprised. In contrast, her father is completely shocked to see such a scene. Calione is also speechless, and the MC is completely unable to understand the reason for this. As soon as the merchant's daughter says it is a gift, the MC quickly gets into the carriage and leaves at full speed, completely embarrassed. Edred calls her father and asks if he remembers what she had said about having a wish. Completely stunned, he replies that he remembers. She smiles and emphasizes that she wants to become the MC's fiancée, which leaves her father even more devastated since he always heard, when his daughter was younger, that she would always marry her daddy. Then, knowing that people grow up and afraid of losing his little girl, he shouts loudly that this cannot be happening. Meanwhile, the MC continues his journey at full speed. Calione says that the girl is a warrior and that she did not think she would try to win over the MC with such a bold move. However, she sees the MC clutching the money and wants to know if he really likes money that much. Jaewoo starts laughing and makes it clear that she simply did not understand. Then he emphasizes that this is how the world works, because it only works with money. But he becomes frightened when he sees the looks from Calione's underlings and asks them not to look at him like that. Then Jaewoo notices that he is receiving a call from his communication artifact. It is the Shadow King Kubalt, who, while laughing, says that he heard that the MC returned from Grossglockner and that he thinks it is very good to know that he is still alive. Jaewoo makes it clear that he is indeed very much alive, but asks the Demon Lord to stop beating around the bush and get to the point. Therefore, the MC wants to know if the lighters have already left. Kubalt explains that his crows discovered it immediately and that he is contacting the MC because the information has just arrived. Jaewoo is surprised, thinking that it was very fast, and quickly wants to know what the Demon Lord discovered. Kubalt emphasizes that it was exactly as the MC predicted, in which they left for the capital very early, but he wants to know what the MC did to them because they seemed incredibly irritated. Jaewoo says that he just played a little prank on them. Kubalt also says that he still has one more surprising piece of news, then comments that he heard that Rolin, the Demon Lord of Roses, is currently in the capital. Jaewoo finds this very interesting and asks Kubalt if, in that case, he could spread a rumor in the capital. The demon laughs and emphasizes that the MC is being as meticulous as always, but that he will still do what he asks. Jaewoo makes it clear that he will reward him well, and that therefore he thinks he can stop with that kind of talk. Kubalt bursts into laughter and comments that the MC does not even need to be so embarrassed. Jaewoo says that he will trust him and will hang up. After the communication ends, Calione comments that she did not expect the MC to know Kubalt, and that apparently she thinks the MC has more connections than she thought. Jaewoo says that he does indeed have his connections. Having said that, He smiles and gives a pretentious look. Calione immediately shouts, wanting to know why he is looking at her like that. Jaiwoo makes a sign with his finger, calls Calione his dear, and asks if she could make a debut on stage. Already in the imperial capital of Vienna, people are very excited. An old man is asking another guy if he heard, because they say that Kaimar's daughter will be in the capital later. The other guy wants to know if this Kaimars is the one who died a long time ago. The bald old man replies that yes, and says that apparently the demon lord Odgash killed Kaimars and kidnapped his daughter. His friend wants to know why. The old man says he heard that Odgash coveted Kaimar's techniques, but thinks it is more than that. His friend does not understand anything and asks the old man to be clearer. He leans closer and with wide eyes says that he heard that Kaimar's daughter is incredibly beautiful. At that moment, a carriage moves quickly and the old man points to it and shouts, saying that he thinks it is them. Completely embarrassed, Calione asks the MC if all of this was really necessary. He shouts that yes, and makes it clear that her face is like a strategic weapon. She comments that she thought weapons were things like great swords or battle axes. Jaiwoo shouts at Calione, telling her that she should not say such crude things when they are beautifully dressed. She comments that people are not looking much, and that she thinks some things seem strange. Jaiwoo asks her to put one hand over her face, the other hand on her knees together, and while Pili does not like what she is hearing, the MC asks her to make the shyest expression she can. Then he makes a demonstration for her to see how it is. Calione wants to know if the MC really wants her, the action commander who used to lead an entire army, to do something like that. Jaiwoo asks her to do it quickly, because people are already watching. She tries to argue, saying that she thinks the dignity of a commander goes down the drain, but Jaiwoo does not want to hear it and wants to know if she wants to be fired, because if she does not, then she should leave. She feels awkward, clenches her fist tightly, which leaves the MC very surprised at what he is seeing, since she is doing exactly what he asked, putting one hand over her face and the other over her knees, and completely with a shy expression appears before the crowd. People are left with their mouths open, impressed with such beauty. She wants to know if she is doing it right. However, the crowd goes wild and starts shouting her name. Calione is very embarrassed and with tears in her eyes, wants to know if this is really right. Meanwhile, in a castle, the servants are all at their posts. Roland calls for everyone and says that they will have a very important guest. Then she emphasizes that she is deeply sad not to be in her palace of roses, because to her the person who will be there later is more important than the emperor, being more important even than any demon lord. Therefore, she shouts that she is begging. Then she comments that the chefs will prepare the most delicious meal they have ever made, and, to the servants, that they will make the place there more beautiful than her own palace of roses. At that moment, Lawrence appears, informing that the people she was waiting for have just arrived. Rolene is very surprised to learn that they have already arrived. Then she turns and asks everyone to do their best to make the day the best day of their lives for her dear Lord Kaimars.